She was getting the first wave of the heat, and posting 8s and 9s, and that all of a sudden if she was doing that, she was just a shoo-in.
And the last quarterfinal, of course, is going to see Sally Fitzgibbons up against the girl that we've all got pegged to be the Rookie of the Year in 2015, Tatiana Weston-Webb. An amazing rookie season she's had. Well, plenty more to come, but right now we're going to get a bit more insight on the sandbar here in the southwest of France that we've picked for the contest. Jeremy Flores taking us through it.
It's crazy because you never know what to expect. Even me, I mean, I live here in France, in Rossegor. I could be training in this one bank knowing there's a comp coming, but next thing you know, there's a swell, and a week after it's gone. There's 2 peaks. When it's small, there's a little fun little trestles right and left peak. It's called Le Cunu. 300 meters north, there's an outside bank called the Guardian, which is exactly the same as the bank last year. I'm pretty confident on these banks. They look pretty good, and the swells that's coming looks pretty good too. This event's been well known for the barrels. Every year we get crazy barrels. We had some really good memories of everyone getting the biggest tubes. But this is the most rippable banks too when it's small. So any condition is going to be exciting to watch. Those 2 banks I just explained, we might not even be surfing them in the comp. Who knows? If there's a better bank, more north or more south, then we're out there. For me, I mean, this is the hardest event on tour. That's what makes it so special too.
We are getting set to kick off the quarterfinals of the Roxy Pro here on day 7 of the event window, and some big matchups established. Obviously, there's a good opportunity to crown a champion later today. We'll keep an eye on conditions before making that call. But just reflecting on this event so far, Rosie, what's been the big highlight for you?
For me, the biggest highlight has definitely been Carissa Moore's form in round 1, but also Coco. I think this is the best event that we've seen her surfing in. A lot more confidence on that bigger equipment. She's looking impeccable.
Pete, what about for you?
I'm actually going to go steer away from the title race for a sec and reflect on the quarterfinal number 2, which is Sage Erickson in her form, and Coco Ho, like you had said. I mean, Coco Ho has been surfing the best that we've seen her surf this entire season. She did that in this event, and Sage Erickson, the same thing. Sage able to overcome Lakey Peterson and Stephanie Gilmore to get into this quarterfinal. So I love the form of those 2 surfers, and that's my favorite quarterfinal.
Beautiful. I like Joanne DeFay. I just love her as a human, firstly, but I just like the fact that she's fighting so hard, unsponsored, really entertaining this French crowd. That she's got a lot of support here on the beach, and it's going to be a huge matchup. And here's a warm-up wave of, well, we're seeing Tyler Wright out there at the moment. She's blitzing it, but I think Joanne is due for a huge finish in 2015, already in the quarters once again. And, you know, the fact that she wrestled a win away from the title contenders this season is monumental.
And she mentioned yesterday there's no way that she is going to do that she's not going to get a result in this contest. She was just that confident, and I love seeing that from her, because I think as soon as she does that, she kicks it into another gear, and that's why she won the US Open.
Well, both those surfers in that first quarterfinal are extremely fired up. Joanne DeFay doesn't want to lose in front of this French crowd. Tyler Wright, she announced yesterday that she is all about the world title moving forward. A little less dance in her pre-heat routine. Who do you think's going to win? I have no idea at this point.
You're throwing out there.
Let's get Joe Turpel and Martin Potter's opinion. They'll be calling the first two heats.
Thank you, Ronnie, Rosie, and Peter Mel on a potential finals day here for the Roxy Pro. First quarterfinal matchup, Joanne DeFay and Tyler Wright, and the crew is just diving into the story of who's going to win. That conversation never ends when we go to new venues on tour, critiquing form. Tyler Wright has suffered some ups and downs as far as results this season. She had a round 2 loss at the US Open. That's never happened to Tyler before. She's won that event. She's won this event. But something's different now. You kind of go through certain surfers' careers, like Medina this season, not getting big results, kind of like a Parco year where you start questioning how they're surfing. You watch them out of the jersey. They're still surfing at the top of their game. But Tyler has a little bit more intensity now with the jersey on, knowing that she wants to take out a world title soon. She's had a couple of early chances, and maybe those first couple of season spots she's in a world title race, maybe that role came too easy at the time.
Yeah, you know, I think sometimes you've got to sort of step back from it, which is what she's had to do this year. You know, you can see those losses are hurting a little bit more than normal, so I like that. You know, I like the fact that it's starting to sting a little bit. She's starting to show a little bit of passion, and I think you know, moving forward, I think she's going to be a force to be reckoned with next year. Just that year older, that year smarter. You know, surfing still as good as anyone on the world tour. So this first quarterfinal is going to be amazing. Obviously, Joanne DeFay in that home court advantage, feeling comfortable, sleeping in her own bed, and you know, also in very good form. So looking forward to these two powerhouses kicking things off today.
That's right. Well, a little bit of a repeat matchup from last season. Just a round earlier, Tyler and Joanne DeFay have met a couple times. Tyler obviously moved on to the final last season and took out Courtney Conlog. Right now, they're just clearing the lineup right now. You see a lot of the guys in the top 34 getting an early morning surf. Guys like B. Durbid showed up early. And we had a little chat with him about that big open face carve that he drilled in that heat against Kolohe and Dino. He said it felt amazing to him. He was curious how the judges were going to react. It was a 2-turn combination and one of the best combos we've had this season.
You know, he was talking an interesting point too. He said he's been doing a lot of work with Chris Prosser. He said you know, that through the hip area is a lot looser than he's been in past times, and I think you know, it just goes to say that you've got to really do a lot of work on your body to be able to surf at a high level like that. He said he's hasn't felt that loose in a long time, and it's obviously showing. I mean, he's you know, surfing as good as he ever has, and I think Nick Fanning's got to really you know, take notice of that.
As we see Bede just hoping he can get a wave in. He never likes paddling in, but he knows he's running out of time. He's going to clear the lineup for this first quarterfinal heat. Joanne DeFay taking on Tyler Wright. They both were able to achieve the Rookie of the Year honor on their first year on tour. Tyler had that crazy record and still does for the youngest surfer ever to win a championship tour event at just 14 years of age. The weird part about it, difference from last season, Tyler's the lower seed than Joanne DeFay coming into this matchup.
Yeah, you know, which means there's a lot less pressure on her, which means that, I mean, she already taken down Courtney Conlog yesterday and stinted her world title race a little bit. So Tyler's on a bit of a roll. I think, you know, defending champion here with a lot less pressure than last year. I'm looking forward to seeing how she comes out firing.
So still anticipating the start for this first quarterfinal. Big matchups to follow with Coco, Sage Erickson in the next heat. Carissa Moore takes on Nikki Van Dijk. That's a big one for the world title. If Carissa takes out Nikki, she'll be #1 of the world on top of the Jeep leaderboard. And Tatiana Weston-Webb has a matchup with Sally Fitzgibbons. Deputy Commissioner, former Tour competitor, Jessie Miley-Dyer, didn't want to just come out of the gate saying it was going to be a finals day. She'll check the conditions. We still have plenty of time left in the waiting period. As we look at this little lull, setting up the stage for this first matchup, Potts, little conditions update. How different is it from yesterday?
Yeah, just a little smaller, a little less consistent. The only thing I'm worried about is on the outgoing tide. It's going to slow up a little bit. You know, I prefer that incoming tide situation where it'll, because there's so much water moving here, the tidal changes are so drastic that I think you're better off on that incoming. It sort of almost helps the swell back in. With that outgoing tide, we're going to see lulls, but already this morning, Joe, we've seen some really clean, beautiful waves, and I don't think the women are going to complain too much about this quarterfinals getting underway.
Still early in the morning. Everyone's just showing up here on Monday as we open up the WSL rulebook and check out the judging criteria. Commitment, degree of difficulty, innovation and progression, combos of majors, variety of maneuvers, and speed, power, and flow. 3 of your favorite words, Potts, right at the bottom of that list, and they all translate that into numbers. Excellent surfing, 8 to 10 point range. You go all the way down to the 0 point rides, impossible. You take off on a wave, get up, you'll get an incomplete score. Poor waves are usually just falling on turns, but obviously the goal, looking for 10s as you hear the horn sound. Quarterfinal number 1 is underway here at the Roxy Pro. Tyler Wright looking to finish off her season in a big way. Won this event last year, then finished runner-up at Honolulu Bay last season to Carissa Moore. She's had success at every venue on tour, and now acting as a spoiler in the world title race for the next 2 stops of the season. A couple of birds join them in the lineup. It's been so peaceful down here and such a great crowd here in Europe. Multiple languages down on the sand. It's not just the locals here in Hossegor watching the action. But Joanne DeFay is going through a feeling she'll never forget. Into the quarters with everybody on the beach behind her, willing her to go on all the way to a big win.
You know, I think we're going to have a good solid crowd down here today again, even though it's Monday, Joe. It's a Basque holiday, so the long weekend, that's why we've had so many people down here. They know the contest is on. They're going to be crowding down, that's for sure. You know, a lot of the people that come here, that they specifically come here for the event. It's not accidental that they stumble upon the Quicksilver and Roxy Pro. It's a scheduled event for them, so they put that time away. And you know, a lot of Spanish, a lot of people from all over Europe, a lot of English as well. And let's not forget the World Cup was on to the rugby. England's out. France lost to Ireland last night, which means that the French have to play the All Blacks in the quarterfinal, which is devastating for France.
Wow, that was a big one. Everyone was watching last night here after the competition was done here at the Quicksilver and Roxy Pro. Everyone big fans of sport on tour as well. And now they'll be back down here early to watch these matchups going down. When you think about Joanne DeFay and Tyler Wright, they have a lot in common, both Rookie of the Year. They both have a solid power base. Who are you leaning towards as far as progression and innovation, as we saw that on the judging criteria?
Well, you'd have to go Tyler. I think Tyler's got the air game as well that we saw last year. You know, take nothing away from Joanne DeFay. I think Joanne's forte is her consistency. You know, she doesn't fall off a lot. She's kind of got that wave magnet effect where she's always on the good ones. So Tyler's got to be careful here. Joanne's upset the apple cart a few times before, so Tyler's going to have to produce her best to beat her.
Joanne DeFay taking out the U.S. Open of surfing recently this season in front of a huge crowd in Southern California at Huntington Beach. Another venue that has a lot of surfing history, a place where you competed in the past, Potts. And Joanne DeFay was on the podium in front of a huge crowd accepting that award and just slowly realizing that she finally had taken out a huge win. We keep hyping up her performances in big waves because she's amazing, like a cloud break. The surf was flat in Huntington this year. It was breaking right on the shore. A 2-maneuver combination was huge. She was able to adapt. She had a rematch with her best friend Bianca Batendog. This time she got through that and went all the way to the win.
Yeah, and that's just a testament to how, you know, she's learning the game. You know, she's sharpening her skills and she's working on her weaknesses. You know, I spoke about her earlier in the piece and said how much I've seen her change. You know, her body's changed. She looks like she's a lot stronger. Her maneuvers are getting a lot crisper, and she's showing a lot more energy on the waves. So she's done a lot of hard work physically, And that goes a long way, Joe. You know, you always talk about making sure that you strengthen your weaknesses. And I think, you know, if your air game's intact, you know, work on your rail game. Always try and find what is not working for you, what's not firing when you need it. Those are the things you've got to work on.
As you check out, very serious looks on the face of Maddie Bemrose on the left, former QS competitor. Came really close to qualifying a couple of times and still is a serious contender. He's in Coco Ho's camp right next door. Chris Moore, father of Carissa Moore, as she warms up. The other day they saw a photo of themselves, Carissa and Coco, side by side at about 12 years of age. They're talking about their favorite surfers at that time. Coco mentioned her brother Mason. Carissa brought up the name Melanie Bartels way back when that she really looked up to at the time.
Talk about innovation. She was way ahead of her time. Melanie Bartels, you know, I think was one of the first women I saw do aerials, but also had that injury factor as well. You know, she was one of those surfers that was constantly hurt because of the radical surfing she produced, but amazing talent, Melanie. I'm sure she's watching at home.
He's also one of those free surfer type spirits in the lineup. Almost had a little bit of Dane Reynolds. I remember back when I remember at Snapper once, she got a dream wave, but didn't like the way the first turn felt, so she just highlined the rest of the wave, kind of as a statement. She had a better one in her. In the heat of competition, most people think, get back out or just surf the rest of the wave. She always had these amazing surprises and really pushed Steph Gilmore in those first couple of world titles.
That she did. You know, just that free surf spirit, you know, not happy to conform to the rules and regulations of competition surfing. It's that, you know, having to change the way you approach it. And I think that's the hard part for some people, you know, that have a certain way of surfing. You know, you kind of do have to conform somewhat. You know, you have time constraints. You have the judging criteria that you just went over before. You know, if you can produce that, then go out and free surf and have fun. Win heats.
That's right.
That's what it's all about.
Looking at a bit of time running off the clock as we're still scoreless. Remember, no priority at the start of an exchange. They have to sit deeper in established position. Then they'll start a rotation. There used to be this common conversation that would sometimes happen with the two competitors saying, are you going to go for a small wave or should we sit out the back and just get a fresh clock? I don't know how common that conversation is anymore, Putz.
You know what? I would say, yeah, let's sit and wait and then sneak one in. And then your opponent's like, but, you know, and then all of a sudden your feathers are ruffled. I mean, it's tactics, right? And
that's dishonest.
No, it's not. It's
part of the game.
Competition surfing. You know, it's all about winning heats, right? And Joanne DeFay generally likes to have that inside position, which she does have right now. Tyler Wright a little bit more easygoing. She doesn't mind. It's kind of that Mick Fanning approach where, hey, if you really want to be on my inside, go for it. I'm still going to smash you.
Amazing. Looking back at the last couple of heats, just focusing on positioning, on the outcome of big matchups. Jeremy Shepard on hand, working with women like Sally Fitzgibbons, has just noticed with the changing tide, the venue just moves so quickly, where there's certain people in certain courts, like Glenn Micro Hall and Sage Erickson's court. One of the things is just focusing on where you need to be for your next heat. Quarterfinal number 1, still scoreless at the moment, but they haven't had a ton of opportunity out front. Just moving down the line a little bit is Joanne DeFay, but in a better position is Tyler Wright for the first wave of the morning. Little head dip, but she's out in front. That's the first turn of this quarterfinal. Front side wrap, digs in for a beautiful hook in the pocket. Starting to bowl up now. Little tail jam. She'll slide out but recover after that slide. On the board, taking the lead. We're not getting a restart to kick off this morning. Now DeFay with priority, hoping she can answer back really quickly. Saw she was thinking barrel at the start of that wave, Potts, but she ended up controlling the inside with a couple of big hooks.
You know, she knew she had to highline a bit to get around that section, Joe, so, you know, almost riding underneath the curtain of the wave. Let's have a look here. She drives down the line. Needed to tuck up high to get around, which she did. Nice repositioning turn right there. Now she starts to open those shoulders, get those hips moving, and just unload a big snapping turn on that inside section. So here we go, Tyler Wright. Let's have a look at it again. This is the view the judges have, Joe. They're looking at it straight on, so there's no fooling the judges. I love this next turn right here. Just lays it on the rail, brings it all the way around, and then unleashes that trademark snap. You know, that's the thing with Tyler. Sometimes she overpowers those maneuvers, loses the fins, and that was kind of a mistake but corrected. So it's going to be interesting to see how the judges perceive that last maneuver.
Tyler Wright, number 7 in the world, just 21 years of age. When she won that event just at 14 when she was a wild card, she had to get through some of the big names of the sport. Same wild card story then as it is today. Starting off with no seed, taking off on your favorite surfers of all time. She said she wasn't ready for that kind of global awareness after that of her profile. She won at just 14. Next day, people are coming up to her in the lineup saying congratulations. She'd go to the store. People recognized her. She was still a grommet, 14, and all of a sudden she was already a superstar. Media asking her when she was going to commit to qualifying. She started adjusting to that, and it was just cool to kind of see her grow up quickly. She put herself in a world title race really in her rookie season on tour. There was a great interview on WorldSurfLeague.com last season. You can check that out if you click on her profile, go back through the news, and kind of rewind that whole story of her growing up in front of the whole world.
Yeah, you know, it's sometimes very daunting, Joe. It takes a special human to be able to deal with that kind of situation. And Tyler Wright is one of those special humans. He's got a really good, solid grounding, you know, through the family as well, with brother Owen, Mikey, and you know, sisters that surf. Everyone's sort of, you know, you got to have a level head as soon as you get carried away. Owen talks about it a lot as well. Family keeps your feet on the ground. That's right. Yeah, Kirby's in the water with her sometimes, getting her warmed up. Right now you can see her championship tour career stats. 6 wins in her career. A couple of runner-ups in the world. The defending champ of the Roxy Pro France from an amazing performance last season. Got through a couple really close heats. One over Sally Fitzgibbons that was decided at the very end. She took that all the way to the final and had multiple 9s. Back after that win, you also get a lot of attention from sponsors, but Tyler really wanted to focus on who she wanted to be around. At the time, she signed up to be teammates with Stephanie Gilmore way back then, because she wanted to be around someone who was already a world champion, to learn from her and get on trips with her. And that was a really smart decision. Oh, absolutely. You see what's happened with Gabriel Medina, you know, whether that whole rip curl thing was planned for Gabriel or not, but Gabriel found himself surrounded by Mick Fanning all the time. Here we go, up and running. Now making a move, Joanne DeFay on her first wave of the morning. Frontside hook, nice and clean. Into a little jam under the lip. Great flow and rhythm into her third hack off the top, and DeFay provides a solid answer back to Tyler. Remember, Tyler Wright's opener came in at a 5.17. Tyler almost slid out on the final turn, but recovered. Now DeFay, 3 beautiful hooks. Just a 5.18 will give her the lead. You know, that's the difference between Tyler's approach and Joanne's approach. Both surfers are very powerful, but Tyler tends to maybe overpower her turns a little bit more, but which makes it exciting. Joanne just super solid, makes less mistakes, and I think that is where Joanne is really hard to beat, because you know she's going to get her waves, and you know she's going to get those turns. Let's have a look. Big snap right there to kick things off. Love that bottom turn, top turn combo right in the pocket, so a little bit more critical on that one there. And again, so back-to-back maneuvers. You talk about the combination of major maneuvers, that speed, power, and flow. You go through the rule book, and that's exactly what Joanne did. Now Tyler Wright on wave number 2, already with some speed. Tail slide to start off the top. Frontside whip in the pocket, out in front, full carve. Already 3 moves on the smaller inside right. Another big wrap. Forehand jam, great rail work from Tyler. Now looking to finish and belts the final turn. A solid matchup on paper, living up to the expectations, both going blow for blow. Now DeFay will be out the back to get priority and needs to think about a second scoring ride. 17:10 on the clock. Numbers starting to drift in for the local. DeFay looking to try to get into another semifinal moment. Judges liking the control of that opening ride. She had to wait a long time for it to come through. Worth the wait though, Joe. Let me tell you that right now, 8.50. So Joanne DeFay off to a flying start. And Tyler Wright, that 5.17, but just hang on a minute, because Tyler Wright got a bomb of her own and just showed why she has been in that world title race before, and she's going to be in it again, that's for sure. I think it's going to be a standout year for Tyler Wright next year. She's learned a lot, she's grown a lot, and she's shown that passion that maybe was lacking a little bit, a little bit too easygoing, sort of more happy-go-lucky, didn't mind, she was dancing on the stage when she got second. Now those losses are starting to sting. Let's have a look at Tyler's opening maneuver. Throws the tail out there, gouging maneuver on the second turn, so starting to mix it up on this wave. Tyler Wright, once she finds that groove, she can be very dangerous. Another snap right there, multiple turns back-to-back on this wave. A lot of power involved in the surfing from Tyler Wright on that occasion. I like the fact she didn't try and oversurf that wave, Joe. She just really connected with the turns exactly where she needed to. So that's going to be a good comeback score for Tyler.
So Tyler now 6.83 on the second effort. She improves and gets the lead back off of DeFay. Joanne does have the 8.5 and the single high score of this matchup so far. Remember, 8 to 10, excellent range. Judges calling Joanne's start excellent surfing. One judge into the 9. They drop that, and they drop the low 8.0 to get the average. Now she's looking so comfortable. We always used to hype up the Fantastic Four. Names like Tyler, Sally, Steph, and Carissa had such a stranglehold on the quarterfinals. But now new names, Lakey, Courtney, Joanne DeFay, Bianca Batendog, changing things around as we take another look at the 8.5.
Yeah, you wonder why she got it. Well, it was just back-to-back turns there, straight off the bottom into the lip. So critical surfing from Joanne DeFay. It's not about how many turns you do, it's the quality of the ones that you do. And those were 3 solid turns. There was no catching of the rail. There was no hiccups on that wave. Just seamless, beautiful surfing there from Joanne. Tyler Wright with a 6.83, Joe. Just a smaller wave. I think she tried to fit too much in on that wave. Maybe take a leaf out of Joanne's book in the sense of just find those bigger ones and concentrate on 2 or 3 solid turns.
Let's see a big answer back from DeFay now, just needing the 3.5. Power to power, nice finesse and flow. Speed, power, and flow we talked about on the criteria. And DeFay gets into the excellent range now, 14 minutes to go. Priority with DeFay, just needs a 3.5. So fade the takeoff, set up her first move. Set up carve, now it's going to bowl up. Hits it off the lip. Looking for more on the inside, and she'll blow her board out the back and go down. Just a 3.5 needed, so not a major score, but definitely loses something with the finishing move.
Yeah, that she did. I think just trying a little bit too hard there was sort of out of rhythm from the get-go on that wave. So I don't think it's going to be that 3.5 that she needs, which is fine. There's 13.5 minutes to go. She's got that 8.50, which is going to go a long way. As Joanne fades off the bottom here, that first turn there, just you can see how she just didn't quite connect with that. And then sort of got caught right there as well. Then realised I've got to do something special to maybe produce a score there and threw the fins out. So back to the drawing board for Joanne DeFay.
DeFay has been riding Channel Island surfboards on the championship tour. Often has a Proton model or a Rook 15. Proton model is really meant to push hard off the bottom and hard off the top. She likes showcasing that power hook in the pocket. And with falling on the finishing move, DeFay turns in a 3.23. So it's not enough. Tyler keeps her lead out front. 5.17, 6.83. So a missed opportunity for last year's Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, almost got the score. Just needed to make that last turn. Sort of a little bit out of rhythm on that last wave there for Joanne. So sort of handing priority over. You can see 2015 Vans US Open of Surfing champion. A breakthrough win, and that's those kind of things give competitors a lot of confidence. Joanne last year, quarterfinals, semifinals, never really cracked that final. As soon as she cracked the final, she won it. So amazing stuff from the rookie.
That was such a special win for Joanne DeFay. There were a lot of beach breaks on tour, but they have different personalities. Right now, she's on her home court, needing a 3.5 to catch up to Tyler Wright on a potential finals day. Be right for more at the Roxy Pro after this.
water photographer, just a call from that head judge. We need you another 30 meters further south. So you really have to come out of that turn, sorry.
Good morning and welcome to a potential finals day here for the Roxy Pro, the 9th stop of the Samsung Galaxy Championship Tour. Everything's getting so exciting on the top 17. Prize money's more than doubled. There's more venues popping up. This is the second to last event of the season. Maui's back on board, and that's where the world title will be decided this season. We love when it comes down to the final event with a lot on the line for both the world title and for requalification. 10:20 remaining on the clock. Tyler Wright still with her lead. DeFay still just needs a 3.5 as she sets up a forehand snap right in the pocket, driving through the forehand hook, looking solid to get the score. Nice clean wrap as this wave goes off speed on the inside corner. And she'll just hang in there to put this one to bed. Just needing the 3.5, 9:54 remaining in this first quarterfinal. Coco, Sage Erickson coming up next. A classic matchup in that one. Two surfers outside the top 10 picture that took down some big names to earn that matchup. Let's get caught up though. Tyler had a wave before Joanne's last round.
Tyler Wright using her priority there, throwing the tail out. She's got that maneuver down. You know, I love that power that she brings to it. I mean, you can see how every single turn she's putting 110% into it. Sometimes mistakes come with that though. Tyler Wright just absolutely ripping that little wave to pieces, and then right behind her, Joanne DeFay. A little bit of a slow start on this one here. Kind of snapped up through the lip. Watch this turn right here, though. Woof, go right there. She just drives back into the power of that wave. Joanne DeFay overpowering that little insider right there, looking for a 3.50. Tyler Wright looking to improve on that 5.17, which I think she's done. I love that energy that Tyler's starting to bring. She knows she's got a fight on her hands. Joanne DeFay with a single high score of an 8.50. Tyler's got to match that. I think she realizes it. She needs to match that 8.50 to be in this heat.
Last score for Tyler Wright, a 6.70. That is a keeper. So that last wave we saw of DeFay, she needed more than that 3-point score. She needed a 5.03 to get the lead change with 8:25 to go. You see the importance of a matchup for momentum and for coming back. Tyler's been talking about coming back into a world title opportunity after saying she suffered her most emotional loss of her career back at lower trestles at the Swatch Women's Pro. She opened up with a 9.93, almost a 10 against her longtime rival Carissa Moore. She looked destined to move on to the next heat. She needed just a 5 range score to take it, and she got a 4.93 on her last wave, and she needed a few minutes to recover, even a couple of days to really think about what happened there.
Yeah, you know, probably one of the best things ever happened to her, Joe. I mean, I'm cruel saying that, but you know, sometimes you've got to take those losses. You got to let them hurt, you know, and take a few days to get over it. I think that's a good thing for Tyler. You know, I've seen a little change in her attitude since then. It's not as much dancing around and that happy-go-lucky thing. A little bit more focused, a little bit more stealthy. You know, once Tyler sort of works that out, I think she is going to be a definite force to be reckoned with. You know, you look at her package. She's innovative. She's powerful. She's good in the barrel. She charges big waves. That's all the recipe for a world champion right there.
As we look at the last score, pots for Joanne DeFay, a 5.5 from the panel. Even though Tyler improved, so did DeFay and got the lead once again. Tyler Wright needs a 7.18 to answer back now as we hit the 7-minute mark. So a classic battle. Back and forth, multiple lead changes. But still that single high score was just DeFay's opening ride with an 8.50. One thing we know, we can go mobile up and down the beach here at the Quicksilver and Roxy Pro. We have the Jeeps on hand, and wouldn't you know it, Strader Wazalewski is in the Jeep right now. How's it going, Strader?
Yeah, it's going really good, actually. We just grabbed one of the Jeeps. We're going to go take a look down the beach. Pretty much every morning, these guys jump in the Jeeps. They go for a drive and take a look at what they've got. We've got miles of beach break down here to pick from. So right now, we're going to take a drive down from the main site, and we're going to drive over here to the mobile site where they've got these huge trucks that they throw the actual scaffolding on, and the judges, and they have the mobile site. And what they do is they find the best wave in the morning, and they go for a little drive as we are right now, and they find the best peak, and then they just set up shop, which is, it's a definite logistics thing to do, but hey, if you got the opportunity, why not? We got the Jeeps to do it. Go down the beach, check it out. Right now we're going to pull up on the mobile site right in front of us, and we're going to take a look at this heat in the water right now. Joanne DeFay, Tyler Wright getting after it. Hopefully, we get to see some action right out of the front of the windshield here in a minute.
Strider, that Jeep looks like it handles the sand pretty well. How far down the beach are we from where the main contest site is?
We got about a 500-yard run up the beach, and it's a perfect decision because where the judges are here, it makes it the vantage point much better from up the beach. When you're looking sideways down at it, you don't really get a good view of the wall, the vertical surfing that they're doing, whether it's lateral, whether it's straight up and down, the technical aspects of tail wafts and the deep bottom turns. There's so much more you actually get from being directly in front of the surfer when they're surfing, and it's really nice to have that vantage point for these guys.
Well, Strider, I've ridden with you in the car so many times, and you're never this calm. There's usually hip-hop music playing. What's going on this morning?
Well, we got to be able to clearly hear the Waz in his voice coming across the tune, so we want to make sure that everything comes in. I usually do drive a little faster, but I want to make sure that the spectators are safe.
Serious, I've been in the car with you in LA, mate. You drive a lot faster than that.
Well, Strider, scoping out the sandbars. Thanks so much to the Waz. We'll be catching up with him all day today on a potential finals day, known for charging huge waves around the world, but believe me, he loves to surf anything that moves. He's been getting multiple sessions in on his breaks, but now focused on finals day here with now 4 minutes 15 seconds to go. Remember, DeFay got a lead change, the 5.5. Tyler needs a 7.18 to make her comeback.
You know what she needs, Joe? She needs to match that 8.5. I said it before. That's going to be the difference at the end of the heat.
Checking out the heat recap of the first heat of the morning, a rematch from last season, and so far so good for last year's breakthrough performer. Joanne DeFay wanted the first wave, didn't get it. When she finally took off, she turned in an 8.5 for beautiful surfing. Tyler got the lead back, though, with a couple of 6-range scores.
Yeah, and it's not going to be enough. Quarterfinals, you got to get big scores, Joe. Tyler knows that. She's won enough events to realize that once you get into the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals, it's going to take waves up into the excellent range to win. It just means that all the ladies that are in the quarters have been on fire, cream of the crop, really. And Tyler Wright surfing extremely well though on the wave that she's got. I think she needs to be a little patient. 3 minutes to go. She needs a big score to get herself back in the heat. 7.18 required from Tyler Wright, but honestly, I reckon she needs something up in the excellent range just to seal the deal here against Joanne DeFay.
We always talk about how important it is to be on set waves. Each and every heat, a wave with size, and if you put it to bed, the judges always are going to love that. It seems like it puts more pressure on a surfer needing a big score if they have to take off on a smaller wave when the judges know there are bigger waves on hand during that matchup. Because Tyler's 6-rangers, her precision and finesse, her ability to pop the fins out and control the slide makes her so dangerous, but a bigger wave can make that roll a whole lot easier.
No, exactly right. More rim to move. The maneuvers look way more dynamic. The judges like that, and as you said, if there are good ones out there, that's what they, the judges want to see them on it. You heard Richie Porter in California say, look, these are the best surfers in the world. We want to see them perform like that. If there's anything if they don't ride out of their maneuvers in the whitewater, if they don't complete their turns properly, we're going to be critical on that. So, and I like that. I like the fact that the judges want to see the top surfers in the world perform that way.
It's cool when you talk to the judges when they're on an off heat. I remember last season there was a couple of scores that were really close, came on an inside wave. The surfer didn't get the score. And the judges are always welcome to talk about every single heat. They kind of compared it to a free surf session. If someone's ripping on the inside with their 6-foot waves out the back and they're not getting sets, you want to see guys getting sets, taking off on the best waves on offer. Sometimes in a heat, 30-minute heat, there's only a couple opportunities. So being on those waves seems to be the hardest part. Here's Tyler now just up and out as she's searching with 90 seconds to go.
Wow, well, using priority right there. Tyler, maybe a little bit of a mistake. Joanne DeFay paddling. She doesn't need to go on this one, but she's going to try and keep Tyler Wright off, which she does.
DeFay now into the final minute. She'll be a little bit deep for this opportunity, just playing defense. using priority, keeping Tyler off this option, but it's not going to do much for Joanne DeFay's scoreline. Now into the final minute. Moore lines out the back, and now Tyler's all alone.
Wow, this could have been a mistake from Joanne DeFay right here. Tyler Wright handed priority over to Joanne. Now Tyler, one more roll of the dice, Joe.
Needing that big score of a 7-1-8. Big jam to start for Tyler Wright. Hooks it right out front. 2 big turns. High line wrap, now looking to finish strong. Jams it off the lip. Under pressure to turn this heat around. Tyler looking for another big forehand hook in the pocket. Floats it on the inside, and you can tell by her excitement in the claim, she feels like she got it. DeFay will catch up to her on the last section and see what she did out the back. A very important exchange with 20 seconds to go. DeFay using the priority on the wave before, and then a better set was behind for Tyler Wright to answer back.
Yeah, there was a couple of mistakes there from both competitors. Tyler went the first wave of the set. It was a closeout. Joanne unnecessarily went that second one, had a lot of white water on it. The heat is over, and now it's in the judges' hands. Tyler Wright needing a 7.18. I think she got it, Joe, and some. That was a great wave, well surfed. A lot of pressure to have to perform on that last wave. Very similar to the Mick Fanning scenario. Let's have a look. Opens up with a beautiful snap, draws off the bottom, and again, so back-to-back solid maneuvers right there. She's on her way already to that 7-point ride, and then connects on the inside again. A couple of vicious turns. So Tyler Wright, what a way to finish that heat right there. I'm calling best wave of the heat, Joe. What
an impressive wave to turn in when you needed it the most. A 7.18 was what she needed. Her best wave before that, a 6.7. And this is what happened to DeFay on her final wave.
So Joanne, just a couple of turns there. That's not going to factor in for her. So she's not going to better her situation. Tyler is, though.
Scores coming in for Tyler. She hears it. A 9.5 as she survives a tough quarterfinal heat. Now letting it go. A big smile. She knows how close that one was. She's back in the semifinals, and a repeat result from last season here at the southwest of France. So impressive to see Tyler under pressure. She's had challenging heats. She's made the intention clear. She wants to be fighting for a world title, and that's how world champs get through big matchups. Her shaper Matt Biola is quickly on hand to congratulate that. And on the other side, DeFay
made one mistake, Joe. That was it. One little mistake at this level spells disaster. And unfortunately for Joanne, she used her priority at the wrong time there, and Tyler Wright left out the back. Can't afford to do that with the talent of Tyler Wright.
That's right. The quarterfinals are getting exciting. Coming up next, Hawaii versus California. Coco Ho takes on Sage Erickson here at the Roxy Pro. Back to quarterfinals time at the Roxy Pro. If you're just joining us, Tyler Wright had a come-from-behind score into the nines to take out local favorite Joanne DeFay, as now we move on to quarterfinal number 2. A battle of the underdogs as far as rankings are concerned. Coco sitting outside the top 10 on the championship tour. but a seasoned vet these days, taking on Sage Erickson from Ojai, California. Kind of think of the Malloy brothers when you think of Ojai, Ventura. There's so many amazing waves up and down the coast. But Sage spent a lot of time on the island of Oahu growing up and getting comfortable in Hawaiian waves. So she basically grew up seeing Coco Ho quite often.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Malia, Coco, Carissa, Sage, Lakey, Courtney. They've all been battling since they were very young, weren't they?
It's a big answer to Australian domination on the top 17. From the Lane Beachley era to Stephanie Gilmore, now you have Hawaiian and California contenders coming into the mix. There's a couple years there's no representation from California on tour. Now with Sage, Lakey.
Why is that?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, let's try and find out why that was. I mean, there's so much talent in the water in America.
It's a very good question.
Yeah, it's just taken a while for the American surfers to really start dominating. Lakey obviously leading the charge. I think Lakey's got world title written all over her. It's getting better and better.
That's right.
A little bit of a mishap here, though. Sage was a bit too strong for her.
That's right. That was a huge heat for Sage Erickson. Smaller waves. She got to execute her backhand. Remember, world number 1, Courtney Conlogue, out of the event, which was the big news. And coming up next, we'll have a decision on the yellow jersey if Carissa takes out Nikki Van Dijk. She'll be wearing the Jeep yellow jersey heading into the final event, an event she won last season.
Courtney's going to be really upset about that, which is kind of good. You know, she talked about how it stung when she lost the yellow jersey, came back in Cascais and got it back. So, you know, if you look at sort of momentum or rhythm, so to speak, Carissa makes the semifinals here. She gets that yellow jersey back. That's going to make Courtney come out just absolutely firing it in Maui. And we talked about it before. If the waves are bombing, if it's big, you know, Courtney's, she's proven. At Margaret River, she was unbeatable in that bigger, gnarlier conditions. So, you know, if the swell's bombing in Maui, look out for Courtney.
It's exciting as we're coming down to the wire. The end of the season's coming up quickly. Coco Ho just outside qualification on the QS, but with double qualifiers, she looks fairly safe to get the call back up for next season. But now this quarterfinal result is helping her. It's just outside the top 10 picture. Gilmore is sitting number 11th in the world, and Coco right behind her. So now Coco, if she can go all the way, could put herself in a position to qualify on the CT Tour, which is definitely her main goal.
Yeah, main goal, obviously. But, you know, if you're sort of having any doubts of whether you are going to qualify through the CT, well, you've got to back it up. You know, you've got to double dip and sort of make sure you qualify through the QS. It's tough either way.
So now looking at 24 to go, scoreless at the moment, but Sage and Coco are starting to look interested in these subtle little lines starting to establish themselves on the sandbar. First wave is just going to go underneath him. A bigger option is coming. Coco trying to hold position deepest to control the start of this heat. And now Sage and Coco will kind of glance at this one, and both holding back. As you see the rest of it down the line, some of the bigger sets stay a little bit full on the open face first thing in the morning.
Yeah, it's that tide where you've got to really pick the right wave. It's almost the medium ones that are hitting the bank properly. But it's conditions, I mean, look at it. It is absolutely perfect. Nice light offshore wind. 2 people in the water. It's like a dream scenario.
When the last heat pots, we had Strider Wasilewski jump into the Jeep and drive all the way down to where the judges are sitting. Strider, can you give us a good vision of what the judges are looking at and what the structure looks like down there?
Yeah, well, we drove down the beach to take a look at this. What they do is they pile up these containers on top of these flatbeds, these 4-wheel drive big trucks down on the beach. They bring them down. They do the drive in the mornings to find out where they're going to have the event, and then they bring the trucks in, and then they park them. They wire it all up. They throw the speakers on. They power it up, put it all together in the end, and it's on. And then they have the finest little sandbar out front with the tide going low. We saw Tyler Wright coiling up on a perfect coiling little right-hander on that sandbar. It looks so fun. So, you know, they've got a great little production going here, and it's amazing to see the adaptability that they have to drive anywhere they want on the beach to find the best sandbar. Right now, it's that perfect little right that they've got, and hopefully this heat can get some of what they got in the end of that last one. Poor Joanne DeFay rookie mistake. That was tough.
That's right, Strider. Well, one thing we've been talking about are the tides being so extreme here in France. We've got a low tide coming up at 11:22 later on this morning. How's that going to affect the conditions today?
Well, it's definitely going to kind of take the wind out of the swell because, as it sucks out, so will the swell. It's a little harder for it to roll in as the tide because the tides are so extreme, but there will be good waves. I mean, we just saw a pretty good wave come through just now as that last set came through with the ladies not deciding to take one of them. But I do think there'll be, 2 or 3 good sets in a heat with, 2 or 3 waves in them each. So there's plenty of waves out there for them to compete on and go wave for wave.
Well, Strider, maybe hop into the judges' tower for us and give us an inside look. Thanks for that update on the tides and where he is way down the beach. It's such a mobile structure down here, and they always want to be surfing the best banks. Well, we had a crazy roll for Tyler Wright, getting a wave right at the end to turn it and move into the semifinals. Tyler is with Chelsea Kennel.
Yeah, hey guys, I am here with Tyler. We were just talking through those last final minutes, and you said that at about 10 minutes to go in the heat, you kind of knew it would come down to the final seconds.
Yeah, I did. I just had a feeling, at the start of the heat, I was like, look, it's going to be a slow start. And then, 10 minutes to go, I was like, it's going to come down to the last minute. And I knew that, and I kind of just sat there, and, that little one came first, and I was like, well, you can't say no to a wave, especially in that kind of situation. So I went and it shut down in the long run, so I was paddling back out, and Joanne was looking at the second one, and I kind of pushed her into it a little bit, and then the third and fourth one were just dreamy. So I was pretty stoked in how I ran that last end of the heat, and just pretty happy to get through.
And knowing that you are kind of embracing the competitive side of yourself now, how different are these wins for you? We know the losses have been different, but how different are the wins?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's like it's all new territory for me. It's I'm absolutely loving it, and I'm taking so much out of it. Just and learning a phenomenal amount. Like, it's insane how much I'm learning, and I'm just going with it, really. I'm just flowing with it and just doing my best, really. But getting back into the whole competitive side, and just it's just a game, and I love games, and it's it's heaps entertaining for me.
And then now that you're going into the semifinals, we used to talk to you and ask you about kind of how you would prepare for heats, and sometimes you wouldn't even necessarily know who you're going up against. Have you changed that? Have you changed any of your preparation going into heats, or are you kind of still keeping the same mentality? Where are you sitting there?
Actually that's changed a little bit. It was brought to my attention back at Trestles, and in the way I approach a heat, and it's like, you really want to look for a point of difference. And it came up through Carissa, going up against Carissa, and how many times she's kicked my butt. And it was brought to my attention, and I was like, oh, wow, it really is possible for me to beat these girls. But, if I come in with more awareness and pay attention to what I'm actually doing in the heat, instead of just ignoring it all, and it's a real different side, and it's so preparing for a heat's a little bit different. I'm getting my body ready. Actually, in saying that, I did eat a chocolate cake before I went out yesterday.
That's why we love her.
Yeah, in saying that, but I think it's healthy for me, therefore it is. So and it felt good, and so that. There's slight changes that are trying to making me more, aware, and just getting into it so much more.
You can just feel the passion. She is lighting up right here, and that's going to make the semifinals so exciting to watch.
Thank you so much, Chelsea. I wanted 30 more minutes of that interview with Tyler Wright. That was really telling, just telling her whole story about that loss at Lowers, what she's learned, and you can tell how much that win mean to her against Joanne DeFay. Moving into the semifinals, when someone has enough talent just to already be a title contender before they even really try for one, that's a statement. But now that she's learning how to win, adding little strategies to make her even more dangerous. So title's coming very soon for Tyler Wright in the next couple of years.
Big thing she said too was, it was brought to my attention how many times Carissa Moore's kicked my butt. That's something you kind of forget about, and when you really think about it, she would have gone back and looked at the matchups and seen how many times she's came out second best. You're not in this game to make up the numbers. You're in it to win it, and if you're not, well, find something else to do. Tyler Wright's working it out. I like the fact she said that it's all new territory for me because of her headspace, because of that whole new attitude. Wow.
So we still have our defending Roxy Pro champ in the running in the semifinals, and the winner of this matchup will join Tyler in that first semifinal. So far, Sage Erickson turns in a 5.5 that she just got during the interview with Tyler. Coco 0.2 start with now 17 minutes to go. You think about that slower start that Tyler mentioned. She kind of planned on it being a little sleepy in the beginning of that heat and was able to adjust. So that 5.5 probably feels pretty solid for Sage right now.
Definitely. You know, it's a good start. Coco had the inside, a little bit too deep on her first wave. But yeah, Sage, 5.5 out there this morning is a good score.
So now 16:40 to go. We had the boys interviewing Tyler Wright downstairs. Luke and Dan working hard on the ABC show, the cut-down show that they do at every single stop on the Samsung Galaxy Championship Tour. So many hard-working people behind the scenes. We talked about just moving every morning, depending on the Great Bank. Every little decision in pro surfing these days is to make every event better. They wanted to make it a dream tour idea, and coming to this stretch of beach is definitely some of the best beach breaks I've ever seen, Potts.
Not some of, the best beach breaks. You just got to look at variety. I mean, quality of wave at any size. Up to the 8 to 10 foot range, you can still get perfect waves out here. So for a place that offers so much variety, but also perfection as well, it's unique, and I think I'm glad we come here.
Well, the other day we talked about Sage getting through a tough matchup against Lakey Peterson, and then things get tougher in the later rounds. This was the event for the comeback to the jersey for Stephanie Gilmore. Gilmore just the favorite every matchup because she's one of the best of all time. It's a huge opportunity for Sage to take control. Really came down to her not giving up, beating her in a paddle battle, and sent one of the greats out of the contest.
Yeah, that wave there from Steph Gilmore, I mean, she just needed one more, didn't she? Sage, though, she was a fighter. She didn't tap off at all. She didn't take the foot off the gas. Steph kind of did on that little paddle battle. That was probably the difference. Right here you can see Steph, maybe just sort of thinking, well, don't really need it, but this is what it came down to. Sage got priority, got that winning wave, and finds herself in the quarterfinals. So I'm sure Steph's not going to be too worried about that, but just that single wave that Steph got, that huge score, I mean, that's just stuff that we miss so much from her.
Giant-sized win for Sage Erickson, keeping that rhythm going right out front. Little forehand jam in the whitewater section out in front for the frontside hook. Roundhouse cutback. Nice and light on her feet through the inside corner. Now looking to finish up this wave nice and strong. Rips it off the roof. The bottom drops out. And Erickson stays on her feet. Remember, she had a 5.5 before that. Now that's her second scoring ride. You can still feel that energy. Still fired up of how this week's gone. The losses, like you saw from Joanne DeFay's face, are so hard to watch. And Sage has had a few of them at this level. Yesterday it was a different story. She lied on her feet, saying how much fun it feels to win.
Yeah.
She just was making light of the situation, but it's such a true story. When your surfing's being rewarded, you're reminded yourself why you're on the top 17. Another little option out the back. This will be for Coco Ho. Nice off the top wrap. Always clean style and form through that second turn. Nice and easy fade back into the pocket. Now that section breeze, she can go straight up vert in the backwash and hop out of there. Coco's first real answer back. And just getting it with 13:23 to go. Just like Sage, she was wanting to get the winning feeling on the championship tour. Rode a bigger board in her first round heat with bigger size. But she's won key heat. She hasn't had to deal with round 2 or round 4 at this contest.
Yeah, that's the thing. You win those key heats, you get to skip around, keep yourself out of those all-important eliminations. A little bit of a paddle battle going on right now again. We know Sage is up for it. See Sage digging in deep. Coco, first 2 strikes were kind of a little bit too deep on the bank, so that third wave definitely repositioned herself, and she'll drop her best score. Still waiting for wave number 2 from Sage Erickson. 12 minutes and 40 to go. Quarterfinals here, so very important result for both these young ladies.
as we take another look at Sage Erickson's last wave.
Yeah, up and over that whitewater section right there, Sage. Out on the open face, just waiting for this wave to stand up on that inside bank. Now it starts to steepen up a little bit. Sage just milking this one through, nothing major just yet. So it's not going to be a huge score for Sage. Finishes off with a vertical turn, so just trying to back that 5 up, just trying to find some sort of momentum. Coco, this is definitely her best wave right now. Light on her feet, beautiful style that Coco has. Puts her board in the right place at the right time. Little snap right there too. Draws off the bottom, bang up through the lip there. Nice little turn right at the end. So one major maneuver on that wave. Nice little transition work, nice rail work there from Coco as well. It's going to get her back in the heat. 11:45 to go, so this heat is winding down quickly.
So waiting for the last 2 scores to drop in for Sage and Coco. While we do that, let's hear from Joanne DeFay, who's with Chelsea Cannell.
Yeah, thanks, Joanne. I'm here with Joanne. And Joanne, you were just telling me that in those final minutes, you made that priority mistake and you kind of knew halfway down the wave that you probably shouldn't have taken that one.
Yeah, obviously. I was too deep and it was a small one. And so, yeah, obviously, even if I let it to Tyler, she would not get a 7 point on that. And yeah, I just made a mistake and I'm very frustrated right now. But I guess, yeah, you can't do those mistakes with Tyler or any like girls like that can exactly put a 9 at 15 seconds. So yeah, well, it just all my fault. I can blame just myself. So yeah.
Well, I know that this is your home court and your hometown, and this is such a special spot for you. How do you kind of wrap up this event? Obviously not the finish that you wanted, but still such a special place and probably a fantastic memory knowing that you did so well throughout this contest.
I know. It was like pumping wave and there was so much people on the beach for the weekend, and I had some good scores. Even this heat, I kind of managed it pretty good at the beginning and all the way all the way to this 20 last second. But yeah, it's also why we all love this sport. We can all like make it change in a couple of seconds, and yeah, it was such a great event, and yeah. All the food is good too. I've heard Tyler speaking about the chocolate cake. So yeah, anyway, it was fantastic.
The French food is going to get us all. Joanne, do you want to say anything in French to everybody watching on the French telecast?
Oui, je suis un peu déçue de cette série. C'est vrai que, enfin de cette série, non, de ces dernières 20 secondes de mon erreur à la fin. Je suis déçue parce que je pensais, je trouve que j'ai quand même bien géré la série et juste à la fin, au final, j'ai pas très bien géré, mais bon, je suis super contente d'avoir pu quand même aller en quart et d'avoir eu du monde qui me supportait, qui me supporte encore et merci beaucoup à tous et bonne journée et voilà.
Thanks so much, Joanne. It's been an absolute pleasure watching her, and she's definitely one of the darlings of the tour.
Thank you very much, Chelsea and Joanne DeFay. I think that's my favorite interview of someone that's got knocked out of the contest. She understood what happened so well. She says it was all her fault, but she was happy to perform in front of the crowd. You can tell now a little left-on option up for Coco. She's up and out. You can tell now once you win an event, if you get knocked out in the quarters, you feel like you haven't performed to your ability. She's won the U.S. Open. She's got a lot of semifinals. And so she knew she was capable of winning this contest.
Yeah, remember when quarterfinal was a good result for her. Now it's standard. That's what happens once you climb the rankings, especially with it needing to be in the top 10 towards the end of the year. You really got to do quarterfinals or better. Quarterfinals is kind of a cut-off line for those top 10 situations. So Coco just a 4.73 on wave number 3. Still finds herself in second place, needing a 4.95. So this heat very close, Joe. 7 minutes and 50 seconds remaining. These heats are literally flying by, and the funny thing is it feels like it goes even quicker when you're out in the water.
Yeah, running out of time. And It was a little too much time for Joanne DeFay. With that 20 seconds was all Tyler Wright needed to turn that one around. An exciting day on hand. Still waiting to see if we'll get the complete call for finals day here at the Roxy Pro. But we do know number 2 in the world, Carissa Moore, is looking to take on Nikki Van Dijk in a big way. That's coming up next. Erickson, big whip in the pocket, nice wrap. Sage Erickson takes out 6-time world champ, former Roxy Pro champ, Stephanie Gilmore. The Hawaiian with some room to move. Tight jam under the lip, Coco. Carves one off the top, the bottom drops out and she hangs on. A great matchup with Coco Ho taking on Sage Erickson. They've been competing against each other their whole life through the amateur series as little grommets, and now on the top stage as Coco and Sage Erickson are going to try to move into the semifinals. Part of a contest they haven't been in for a while. Sage had a semifinal back in Portugal a couple of years ago when her back was against the wall. She was trying to re-qualify. She had to go on to move into the final. She made the semifinals. It came so close. That motivated her the next season. Won an event in Oceanside on the qualifying series and was right back on the top 17. Sage isn't worried about that this season. Dominated the QS, won an event in El Salvador in dreamy conditions to be number 1 on the qualifying series. Now passing the 5-minute warning, we have some catch-up work to do. Watching Sage out front on this little inside right. Track and cut back into the inside corner. Nice little lip smack off the top, and she'll get a little head dip and just get bucked off in that double up on the inside. So Sage had the 5-5, 4-1-7. Here comes Coco Ho now. Nice read under the lip for the Hawaiian. One more float. Coco tries to pull the finish, and she's down. 4:20 remaining, but some important waves ridden during the break to decide the winner of this quarterfinal. Sage dropped to second, you can see, because Coco Ho dropped to 7.67 during the break.
Yeah, Coco needing a 4.95, and this is what came through here, straight up through the lip right there. Back-to-back maneuvers. That's what the judges want to see. Combination of major turns, variety, and right there, Coco stamping her authority on that last section. The judges loved it. 7.67 puts her in the lead. Now Sage Erickson needing a 6.91 on this wave. Jamming it in the pocket right there, using a lot of power. Sage Erickson snaps it up through the lip. She's on her way to a good score here. Just needs to finish it off, and then somehow just gets flipped off at the end right there. Is that going to be the difference, Joe? Then right behind her, Coco trying to improve on a 4.73. Through the lip again. Free falls out of the sky. And again, back-to-back turns right there on the inside, but doesn't quite ride out of that last one. Is that going to better her 4.73? Sage looking for a 6.91. I think that little fumble at the end might come in to be very critical at the end of this heat, Joe. Not a lot of opportunities. You can't afford to squander those situations.
Very interesting. Well, I know one man checks out equipment really closely. I have a question for Peter Mel. Pete, how do you think Coco's board's looking right now?
It's been down here all week long checking out the action, and of course we had touched on Coco Ho and how much influence Matt has in what she's riding. pretty much more. Well, I was going to say exactly that, right? You have Dad, Shane Beshin, and yourself kind of helping to create Coco's boards. I mean, what have you been doing lately with her stuff?
Well, we've always felt that Coco has one of the best techniques. Like her mechanics are flawless. Like the way she approaches, her lightning fast turns, her quick snaps. But over the last year or so, she's not getting the scores. It's like this really quick, snappy, beautiful surfing, but she doesn't quite get scored the way we thought she should. And kind of the feedback and the vibe is like it looks like she's not showing enough power. The other girls are outpowering her, outmuscling her. So what we've done recently is try and make her boards have more resistance, make it harder for her to turn the boards, stretch them out a little bit longer, a little bit bigger fins, and force her to really hold her rail longer and put more power, displace more water. And what we saw here this week is it kind of started to pay off. She rode a 5'10" on that first day. The board's maybe 5 inches longer than her, and she got huge scores. And even her short boards, we've gone from 5'5" to 5'6", and basically telling her, go surf for a week straight with bigger fins and don't get discouraged, just get used to it. Yeah. And over.
Well, thank you so much. We got about a minute left in this one and hope that it pays off though. Matt, thanks for taking the time with us.
Thank you, Pete, and Matt Biolis, living in San Clemente, California, has been shaping boards for Coco Ho forever. Coco is really the first surfer on the tour to really bring this kind of mayhem approach. That's his nickname, Mayhem. Matt Biolis to the top 17, and you saw so many surfers take on that equipment, like Carissa Moore, like Malia Manuel, just to name a few. Sage Erickson, though, under pressure with 55 seconds to go, needs a 6.24. Coco did the 7.67. Sage's low score of 5.5. Priority is with Erickson, with now 42 seconds remaining.
Yeah, you just thought that you go in and order a board and get it and ride it. It's a little different to that, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's like a science that goes into it of fins and length, and I like the fact that she's dealing with it and surfing a lot better, that's for sure.
So now with 23 seconds to go, Sage looking for the score on this ride. Frontside carve, nice start. Little forehand hook again for Erickson. Coming around the corner, dagger in the pocket. One more off the lip, and Erickson finds a finish. So a fair answer back. Are we going to get repeat buzzer beaters of the first two heats of the morning? Erickson needing a 6.24. It'd have to be her best wave of the heats.
Little fist pump right there. Wow, I'll tell you what, it's she had priority though, so Coco, there was not much Coco could have done about that. Coco did all the hard work, got herself back in the lead with that 7.67, the highest score. Is it going to be enough though? Is it going to be enough to hold Sage Erickson at bay? I'm sure the judges will be calling for the replay. We'll walk you through that wave here in just a second. Sage Erickson, did she dodge a bullet? Started off leading this heat, lost the lead halfway through to Coco's 7.67. And they're going to compare those. Coco's best wave right here. A little bit more vertical, I think, that Coco went on this wave. Sage was more that big jamming turn in the pocket. Coco went up into the lip a bunch of times. Let's have a look at Sage's approach. See how it's a little bit more horizontal. Carving maneuvers more so right there, jamming it back into the power source. I think this is the best turn right here. Really lightning fast snap and then into the lip. Wow, okay. So there was 4 solid turns on that wave, with the best one being the last one, a little bit more critical. And now we play the waiting game.
Judges
Joe?
Taking a look at those replays.
I'm going to put you on the spot.
That's what I'm supposed to do, Potts.
All right, you put me on the spot. I reckon she's got it.
There we go. I think so too. I think her finishing move was solid. Her last 2 turns were the best, but she had beautiful flow, even when she had to go to the front side carve. Smaller wave for Coco, even though she was going vertical. Scores are now drifting in. It's enough. Sage Erickson drops an 8.0 on the final wave to take the heat off Coco Ho to move on into the semifinals. Her personal best ever result is a semifinal on the championship tour. Repeat buzzer beaters to start off the morning here at the Roxy Pro. Carissa Moore coming up next against Nikki Van Dijk.
Carissa Moore, and
Welcome back to the Roxy Pro. Sage Erickson survives against Coco Ho. She had one last chance with priority, and it turned into the best wave of the matchup. She's off to the semifinals to take on Tyler Wright, maybe later on today. Joe Chappelle alongside 89 world champ Martin Potter as we fly through the quarterfinals early this morning. Carissa Moore with a chance to wear yellow if she takes the win over Nikki Van Dijk in this matchup. That Jeep yellow jersey, so prestigious. We introduced the surfing a couple of years back, and now you know the front runner every time they show up on the beach. With Courtney going down the round before the quarters to Tyler Wright. It was a heavy one to see Courtney lose. Courtney Camp told us how important that non-elimination round 3 heat was, and she ended up going into round 4. Clear to see why it was so important. While we're at the break pots, Carissa got started.
Wow, that's all I can say. Those first couple of turns, and right there, laying back into that turn. Carissa Moore is on fire right now. Let me tell you, right, she knows that Courtney Conlock stumbled a little bit. This is her opportunity to apply a lot of pressure. If Carissa Moore can win this event, it's going to put a lot of pressure on Courtney to have to come out and actually win Maui. So Carissa knows that. She understands that. She's been in these title races before. She's got 2 of her own and is looking in devastating form there to kick things off in quarterfinal number 3.
Carissa Moore representing the beautiful island of Oahu and drops an 8.83 to establish her position in this quarterfinal matchup against Nikki Van Dijk. What a huge start. Best start of the morning so far.
You know how she kind of waits for someone to throw a big score at her? Not today. This is a different Carissa. She's just come out and just gone straight for the jugular. 8.83 there. The judges loved that. All the way up to 9.2 from one judge. More sets approaching. Nikki's got her work cut out for her. Carissa still has to back that up though. We've seen a lot of heats lost with one big score. We saw Joanne DeFay drop an 8.5 on wave number 1 and still lose. So Carissa's been keeping an eye on that, I'm sure. And she's got to back that big score up.
More waves on the way for the Victorian from the state of Victoria in Australia. Nikki Van Dijk will try to answer back big time to Carissa Moore. Mid-face bottom turn, just a casual start. This wave will grow on the inside. It's already bowling up. She has some speed. Deep bottom turn. Perfect. Snap off the lip. Goes down on the next re-entry on the answer back. Now Carissa will hop out to regain priority on the very next wave.
Yeah, Nikki can't afford to do that. You know, that falling at the end of her wave. She did a couple of nice turns on that wave. Nikki's surfing great. You know, we've seen breakout performances from a lot of these young ladies. Sage Erickson surfing the best I've seen her. Coco Ho back in good form. Nikki Van Dijk cranking it up as well. These ladies have done a lot of hard work and improving their technique, improving their competitive skills. I'm liking what I'm seeing from a lot of the women that are just on that qualifying line. Nikki Van Dijk, ranked number 10 at the moment, from Phillip Island in Australia, down near my neck of the woods. Beautiful part of the world. Lots of waves, lots of different kinds of waves. Nikki Van Dijk, though, she's got to really crank it up. She's got to work cut out for her. 8.83 on Carissa's first wave.
Nikki Van Dijk has had such a stellar season this year on tour, her best ever for sure. She's had repeat quarterfinal appearances, now into her 5th straight on the championship tour level, but still is just number 10 on the rankings, just inside there. We should see a little boost with this performance, now being her 5th consecutive. She's also double qualifying on the QS, so another surfer that kind of went through her rookie year and things got a little bit close towards the tail end. Now surfing really comfortable, a lot more confidence. She's backing herself in big moments. She drew some amazing lines at lower trestles. She had so much time to showcase her rhythm and flow. She's got definitely one of the best styles on tour.
Yeah, definitely. And she's got to just apply a little bit more power into that style. I think that's maybe the only thing lacking, but she's working hard at it. You can tell. 5 quarterfinals in a row. I mean, that's unbelievable consistency. You need that to be a successful competitor. So she's finding all this out. She's only been on the tour for a couple of years, so she's still working out this game, feeling confident, backing herself, as you said. The more she works out the tricks of the trade, the more she understands how to compete at a high level. I think the better she's going to get.
We've had interesting matchups first thing in the morning here. We always talk about equipment, and shapers also kind of feel like they have matchups too. We saw Matt Biolis on hand. It's basically been Lost surfboards versus Channel Island surfboards every single heat. Tyler on the Lost surfboards won the first one over Joanne DeFay, who's on the CIs. Then we had Sage Erickson get one back for Channel Islands, taking out Coco, who's on the Lost boards. Now in this one, Carissa Moore, part of the Biolis program, surfing against Nikki Van Dijk, who's on Channel Island surfboards again.
Talk about domination.
That's right.
What are you on, Joe?
I try to ride a little bit of everything these days. A couple of surfers that ride Channel Islands are downstairs, Rosie Hodge and Sage Erickson.
That's right, Sage Erickson, another impressive performance from yourself. Obviously, Coco had you there, and then just being able to perform under pressure. Tell me about, the mental state that you're in when the heat's counting down and you know that you need a score.
Yeah, in that one, it was kind of a funky start to begin with. We were almost on the brink of a restart. No one stood up, for 10 minutes, and heats go like that, and it kind of adds a little bit of more pressure because the ocean's so unpredictable. So I was just hoping that the waves started coming, and my board felt really good in the free surf this morning. And Coco's actually been the one that I've been watching the most this event. She really seems to be opening up and riding some bigger boards, and so I knew that was going to be a hard heat, and I'm just so thrilled to be in the semis and one heat away from the final. That would be amazing to get up on that podium.
And talk about what an incredible run. I mean, you had to make it through Lakey Peterson, Stephanie Gilmore, six-time world champ, and then Coco Ho, who's been on form, like you mentioned. You must be pretty thrilled that your surfing is being validated at the moment.
Yeah, I feel like my surfing, I've been happy with my surfing this year. With my performances, that's a different story. So to get up here into the semis and beat some big names really feels good. And constantly, I think my game is I have to compete against myself because it's always a challenge, I feel. And so I'm just really excited. The France is amazing. The beach breaks remind me of home at times. So I'm just excited for the semi and the final, and we'll see how it goes.
And obviously Portugal last year, you needed to make it into the final. You made the semi-final. Now you're in the semi-final. How are you going to kind of, go one step further and make it into the final and be on the podium at the end of this event?
Yeah, going into Portugal was my big result last year, at least the start of that. So I had a lot of expectations for myself, and I ended up bowing out in round 2. And so here I did have a good result last year, and I'm always comfortable, but I just want to perform well. It's kind of embarrassing when you get so many round 2 losses, and a lot of it is confidence, and each heat I'm gaining that, so we'll see how it goes.
Well, we love to see that, and we love to see paddle battles in the water. Joe Potts, take it away.
Thank you very much, Rosie Hodge and Sage Erickson. Sage has been winning paddle battles all week, and we just saw this paddle battle getting underway during that interview. Nikki Van Dijk and Carissa Moore right next to each other, shoulder to shoulder, and looks like Nikki Van Dijk still trying to get the spot to get priority for this next exchange.
Well, Nikki Van Dijk showing that she's done a lot of hard work, Joe. Wanting to get that, knowing how important it is. Just those mini battles within the battle, I think go a long way. Carissa looking Just letting that inside one go. Smart move right there. But yeah, you know, we talk about that, especially against someone like Carissa that's surfing as well as she is. You know, even winning that paddle battle is going to go a long way for Nikki's confidence. Here we go, Carissa starting off with a couple of beautiful wraparound turns, jamming it in the pocket right there. So just combination of major turns, finding that inside connection. So Carissa knows how good Nikki's been surfing, knows she's made 5 quarters in a row, knows she can't afford to take her foot off the gas. Nikki Van Dijk, watch this turn right here from her. Nice wraparound. Out on the open face again. Beautiful swooping turn. You talk about the style of Nikki. Right here, jamming it in the pocket. This is Nikki's best wave right here. That's what she's been doing all year, and finally she's starting to get rewarded for it. Finally starting to get some good results. So Nikki Van Dijk coming back at Carissa Moore.
Great matchup for Nikki Van Dijk to prove herself against a surfer who's won 2 world titles. Van Dijk starts with a 4.5, then a 7.5. Nikki, just like Carissa, got wild card opportunities before she was on the tour full time. We saw her at Bells Beach almost every single year, and she had to go through this role, surfing against the top-seeded surfers. But now she's earned her way on tour, getting into a lot of big quarterfinal matchups. Now her goal is just to get a breakthrough win. Lakey talked about that role she had earlier in this season with just straight quarterfinals with consistency. But something changes when you get to the back end of a finals day.
You know, if you're an average golfer, you're looking at bogeys, and if you go for a bogey, every now and again you get a par. Same with competitive surfing. You know, your standard is basically a quarterfinal. You keep getting those. Every now and again you're going to break through and get a semi. Once you do that, those semis become the norm, and then all of a sudden you're looking at making a final. So you got to take baby steps. You know, take little nibbles out of it. Don't bite off more than you can chew, because then you get disappointed when it doesn't work. So just baby steps, one wave at a time, one heat at a time. Carissa, here she goes.
Having a look now on a fun-looking right. She has a ton of speed. High line wrap for the Hawaiian. Into the open face. Quick rip off the top. She's hoping it's going to bowl up on the inside bank. Another solid forehand carve, and now here it starts running down the line. Quick projection snap, grab rail, float. Messy little landing, but she'll hang on. Carissa had the 8.83 start. 6.27 she was trying to better. Now Van Dijk. Little setup turn, and she's out of there.
Yeah, Nikki gave her that wave too. I think Nikki Van Dijk had priority in that situation. Let Carissa go. You know, you look at how Joanne's heat turned out. She made one tiny mistake, you know, and realized that at the end that you can't afford to give surfers like, you know, Tyler Wright, like Carissa Moore, any kind of opportunity. You know, they take advantage of those situations. So Nikki letting Carissa go. Is Carissa going to better her situation? Looking to improve on a 6.27. Let's have a look. Carissa up and riding. Draws off the bottom. It's that trademark snap back into the power source, keeping that board moving rail to rail. And what that's doing, it's going to eliminate any kind of catches. It's keeping her feet in that sweet spot. Now it starts to stand up on the inside. Bang through the lip. And you talk about that messy landing, but managing to ride out of that. 6.27 is what's required to improve her situation. Just over 16 minutes remaining, more waves approaching. Beautiful day of surfing. I'm glad we got these quarterfinals underway, Joe.
Well, what a big start for Carissa Moore. Not trying to leave any guesswork towards the tail end. Seeing those first couple of heats, we've had 2 straight buzzer beater moments. Sage Erickson getting the score right on her final wave. Tyler Wright under pressure to perform, taking out Joanne DeFay. Remember, Joanne had that high 8 on her opening ride. So Carissa's sticking with that same theme. Remember, the Jeep yellow jersey is at stake. If Carissa Moore can keep this lead in this quarterfinal, she'll be #1 in the world heading into the Target Maui Pro, where she won that thing last season. Carissa didn't have that event on tour in her first couple of years. It disappeared for a couple of seasons. She was so happy to be able to finish the year in Hawaii. And it's a tradition that I think should stand forever, finishing in the birthplace of surfing. We love being there for the Pipe Masters for the men, and now Honolulu Bay, the most dreamy right-handers in the world for the women.
Yeah, it's, I mean, we love going there too, don't we, Joe? It's, you know, just where, it's that proving ground, you know. It's, Sean Thompson always said to me, he goes, Martin, you know, you can rip all year, you know, in the waves around the world, but when it gets to Hawaii, you've got to prove yourself there. That's where you know, you've got to be able to win events. That's where you've got to be able to manufacture that world title. You know, if you haven't won it by the time you get to Hawaii, it's going to be tricky to win it there. But you haven't proved yourself as a competitive surfer unless you've won in Hawaii. You know, and I think that's always been that way, and I think it should always be that way.
So 14:30 remaining. Tatiana Weston-Webb preparing for Sally Fitzgibbons coming up next here at the Roxy Pro. We'll be right back for more after this.
tuck into the barrel, clean style, and she finds the exit. Nikki Van Dijk's got work to do, driving into his first turn.
Welcome back to the southwest of France. You're watching the Roxy Pro, the 9th stop of the Samsung Galaxy Championship Tour. Samsung Galaxy, the first global partner of the World Surf League, taking us to amazing places around the world, like this venue, some of the finest pieces of sand in the world. We've seen a great bank last this whole waiting period. Big barrels, big turns. Tatiana coming up next at a 10 for a forehand tube into a snap. She'll be dangerous coming up next. Coming off the break, Carissa Moore, layback jam to start. Into the inside corner, full wrap. Trying to better a 7.87 as it bowls up. Nice speed snap, a ton of momentum for the inside corner, and punches it out. A flawless performance in this quarterfinal from the two-time world champ. That yellow jersey could be changing hands in 12 minutes.
Well, she bettered that 6.27, Joe. 7.87, her second highest scoring ride. Nikki Van Dijk now needing a 9.20, and she's not finished yet. Nikki, having a look at this one. Can she get herself back in the heat, Joe?
Has some speed, a good section to work with. Perfect snap. Van Dijk wraps the next section. Clean line, draws it off the bottom, jams it again. More room, a little under the lip, hack to finish. In a really challenging section, Van Dijk hangs on. She needed a 9.2, waiting for a couple of big scores to come through. Let's now hear from Coco Ho, who's with Rosie Hodge.
That's right, the ladies are ripping, and one of those ladies that's been an absolute standout is Coco Ho. Coco, obviously not the result that you would have wanted, but still you have to take some positives out of your performance in this event.
Yeah, definitely. It felt good to find my bearings and get scores and get out of heats finally. But yeah, it was just almost the result I wanted, but not quite, so it hurts.
And you have so much to look forward to. I mean, the last event in Maui, there's a couple of weeks before you have to get ready for that. So, what are you doing in this downtime to prepare for that one?
Yeah, it's been a long haul this Europe leg, and I'm excited to put the boards away for a second, hang up the wetties, and before I go home, my boyfriend's coming out with a movie next week, so go to the premiere for that, and then to Hawaii and in bikinis and good waves. So.
All right, well, go enjoy that movie premiere, get the dress and the heels out, put the boards away, and enjoy it. Back up to you guys.
Thank you very much, Rosie Hodge. Coco, happy to get that winning feeling once again, struggling on that top 17 picture just to get big key heats won. She's done well in the QS to requalify the last couple of years, but it feels like that recipe with equipment with Biolis is making a huge difference as we look at Carissa's last win.
That was that first turn right there, just jamming the fins into the wave. Carissa's got so many different turns under her belt. Look at this fast she's going down the line. I thought she was going to go to the air, but no, just kept the board in the water. jam in that last turn. So Carissa trying to improve on her situation, but have about this one. I love this wave from Nikki Van Dijk. Just seamless, beautiful surfing. Great transition work right there, mixing it up nicely, snapping through the lip right there. Critical stuff here from Nikki Van Dijk. I reckon that's going to be her best score right now. And I think she's going to get herself back in the heat, Joe. She's looking for a big score of a 9.20 before that last exchange. But I think that's definitely Nikki's best wave. Wow, she's improved so much.
What a great answer back, knowing very well that Carissa Moore had a solid start. Nikki Van Dijk not falling apart and turning in her best. That's what you like to see about rookies improving, not getting rattled or phased by the situation at hand, and now posing a comeback. Much different story in this matchup. A lot of big numbers early. We'll see if this one comes down to the final exchange. Just heard from Coco Ho. She knocked out in the quarterfinals. She's talking about her boyfriend, one of the best snowboarders in the world, Mark McMorris. 10-time X Game medalist, 2-time U.S. Open champ. Coco's been getting a lot of motivation off, kind of a relative in snowboarding, but her boyfriend's so accomplished. She tries to really turn it on competitively as well. We think about those related sports like in skateboarding, and Carissa thinks about that a little bit when it comes to working on her air game. That seems to be the closest discipline when it at least comes to the progression game. But at the end of the day, they're completely different.
Well, they are, but I think there's one familiarity, and that's being able to control your body through the air. Once you leave the water, to be able to control your movements through the air, and I think that's where the best aerial guys have it. They're able to control that, their body position, control where their weight is going. And I think it's, with that skateboarding side of things, a lot of guys are using the foam pits to learn how to do that, learn how to control that glide through the air, the body position where you need to be. You have to keep your weight over your board. There's a lot of stuff that goes into that. So, every little bit helps, and a lot of surfers are using that foam pit skateboarding side of things to help them through the air.
Have you been to Jeremy Flores' little camp?
Not yet, but it's. I heard it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's got that setup with a ramp, landing into a foam pit. You kind of imitate those motions above the lip. Carissa Moore more often works with guys like Shane Beshen at lower trestles. And one thing Shane said, one thing he noticed that Carissa could separate in the progression game is not doing early grabs, doing airs with style, going for the harder airs, and to do those over and over again, where she's always, if she's going to use one, it's going to be deadly. It's not just going to be an average air. Just like Carissa striving for 10s, she's going for the best moves. That sometimes she hasn't been able to bring them every heat, but they're a little secret weapon she can rely on.
No, exactly right, and that's the thing with surfing. Not every wave is going to let you do that air. It's not like skateboarding where the ramp is there every time, so you can get used to that and you can perfect those kind of maneuvers. But with surfing, it's a certain type of wave, it's a certain type of situation. The wind's got to be right. Everything's got to come together for you to be able to produce a dynamic aerial maneuver. So it's that spontaneity that you've got to have, that ability to be able to recognize that section at a split second and then react to it.
So we're looking at the score line here in quarterfinal number 3. Carissa Moore started with an 8.83 and a 7.87. Van Dijk with a 7.5. Looking for a 9.2 on the answer back with the world number 1 position on the line. Carissa Moore lost that role at the last event in Cascais when Conlog went to her 3rd victory this season. As you look at those win totals, Carissa's run started early. The Australian leg, couple of quick wins, and then one at the Swatch Women's Pro in Southern California.
You can see Carissa with priority there. I think we're still waiting for Nikki's last wave to get locked in. She's looking for a 9.04. Can remember when she did a couple of beautiful turns, so looking forward to seeing that score.
We do have Strider Wasilewski looking on in this matchup. We know the Jeep leaderboard is a fun one to bring up. How's this one going for you from your angle, Strider?
Oh, it's pretty interesting, getting exciting down here on the beach, watching everything unfold as we see these two get after it. It seems like Carissa's just continued the flow. She's had it for about 3 or 4 days, watching her surf just on the side of the event, not only, in the event. So she's continuing that. She went back out last night, had another surf, and she just has gotten into a rhythm and a groove. And watching Nikki surf right now, she seems like she hasn't opened up. She hasn't been able to find that big open face. She's not completely out of this one yet, that. There's only 5 minutes left, but there's definitely a better flow in Carissa's camp, and she's definitely finding the better ways, which seems to make the difference. And on the inside, there's that little backwash warble too, with the conditions changing a little, and it's really hard for them to execute that last maneuver.
Yeah, thinking about that last section a bit, Strider, what can you do to provide an exciting move for the panel?
I really think, you can continue to do above the lip surfing, blowing the tail out and everything that you want to do in the lip, but you have to come down centered over your board to be able to react to any kind of backwash. If you come down a little off, trying to recover on the way into it, you're going to just lose it if there's anything to deal with at the bottom. So definitely coming in over the top of your board, everything, centered over the hips, you're going to stick that and come right out of it.
Well, Strider, I know you love getting barreled. Tati got barreled a couple of days ago. Can she hope that things will start opening up as it come down to turns on finals day?
Yeah, I think that we're going to be looking at just that backside whip that Tati has, and she's got on lock. I mean, when she throws it up there, she does the swivel with the hip and then shoulders, and boom, it's like a golf swing. Just coils up, blam, lets it go. Christmas trees.
That's right, Christmas trees. Strider's favorite saying, when you throw a big fan up into the sky. Strider Wasilewski, former cover man on Surfer Magazine, surfing one of his favorite waves at the Bonsai Pipeline. Meanwhile, we were waiting for a huge number to come through for Nikki Van Dijk. A 9.07 for the Australian. That one where she ripped multiple turns into the inside and got a finish. The judges took a few minutes before they locked that one in. Now she needs a 7.93 to really rattle this world title race. 3:15 to go. Nikki does have priority out the back.
Wow, the Fantastic Four are getting pushed nowadays, aren't they? I mean, there's no guarantees anymore. Nikki Van Dijk, I knew that was going to be a good score from her. Just back-to-back solid maneuvers, seamless transitions. That's what the judges want to see. On a set wave, got to get the bigger waves against Carissa. You can't manufacture those big scores on the smaller waves. Let's have a look at that again. She draws off the bottom here, just jams it in the lip. Straight into that bottom turn, top turn combo. Another variety right there as well from Nikki. Bangs it up through the lip again and just rapid fire on that wave. So, you heard Strider say, there's that, you've got to stay over your board coming into that inside section. There is a lot of lump and bump, a little bit of backwash. I think it was a smart move that she didn't try and push it too hard on that last turn. Just made sure she rode out of that wave, showed the judges control, and that's brought about that 9.07. Highest single score of the heat so far.
It's one of the best scores of the morning here on this potential finals day, or the first semi-final is stacked up with two surfers that had to turn it right at the tail end on the final wave with priority. First it was Tyler getting the score, then it was Sage Erickson turning that one around, and now we could be setting up another scenario. Nikki Van Dijk needs a 7.93. Almost looks like there's a script to the finals day today.
Buzzer beaters. We've seen a bunch of them already. Are we going to see another one? 1 minute 40 seconds to go. Nikki Van Dijk needing a 7.93. She's already got a 9, so she knows deep down she can do that. All she needs is a wave to come her way. Ocean looking a little quiet though, Joe. Don't see too many lumps coming.
Minute 25 to go for Van Dijk. What a streak it's been for her. Kashkai's turned in a quarterfinal result. Back at Lower Trestles was into the quarters. U.S. Open made a quarterfinal. The big one for her was returning to the Fiji Pro after hitting the reef on a duck dive, having to leave, get airlifted out of there. Came back the next season and turned in a huge result in performance. Not rattled, just more motivated. Such a solid competitor. Now with just 55 seconds, Ocean still appearing flat. But we've had a big change in the last 10 seconds of the last couple of heats. Will it happen again here, Potts?
Well, I don't know. It's you can see Nikki and Carissa sitting very patiently at the back. I see a little bit of a bump out there. Is it going to get here in time? You can see some lines starting to approach. 30 seconds remaining. I don't think it's going to happen in time, Joe. I think they're going to come up just a little bit late.
Nikki's got her eye on it just out the back, holding her position. It's up to her if the wave comes in time, if she wants it or not with priority. Now she's just going to try to make a move with 14 seconds, and Carissa's going to come with her. It's a little inside bump that doesn't look like it's really standing up on the sandbar, and it's going to roll underneath Nikki Van Dijk as we're into the countdown. The Australian turns in a 9.07 on her wave before, put herself in a position to come back to try to take out a two-time world champ, but she runs out of time. And now Carissa Moore makes it official, back to #1 in the world, and she'll be wearing the Jeep yellow jersey, heading into the final stop of the season at Honolulu Bay, and a place where she's had that winning feeling in the past. The title race gets exciting at each and every event, and they keep just trading the jersey the last few stops of the season.
Don't you love it? You know, I love the fact that it's a seesaw battle. It's going to go all the way down to Maui. Whoever wins in Maui is going to win, Joe.
A huge one here. Quarter 4 features Tatiana, Weston-Webb, and Sally Fitzgibbons. We'll bring in Ronnie Blakey and Ross Williams for the call right after this.
She starts to stall for the pitch. She gets barreled. She's going to come out. This is going to be a monster score for Tatiana. And Sally Fitzgibbons is looking to answer now. Quarterfinal time here at the Roxy Pro. Sally Fitzgibbons and Tatiana Weston-Webb, the rookie sensation who's been blowing minds with big performances throughout the year, has an opportunity to climb even higher into the top 10 with a big finish here at the Roxy Pro if she can overcome Sally Fitzgibbons. But this is one of Sally's favourite events. She won back in 2013. She's never missed the final series. Same goes for 2015 here in the quarters. And Sally, with Courtney Conlog out of the event, has an opportunity with a win to really close the gap with those front runners. But here we go, Sally Fitzgibbons getting started early. Ross Williams.
Yeah, looking pretty zippy on that board. Low tide is coming up on us quicker and quicker, so there's tricky little fragile sections on the inside there, and I love to see that from Sally. Getting kind of frisky there on the inside. Definitely mixing it up, and a huge difference in the technique between Tatiana and Sally. Polar opposites. Sally, she's going to be looking for just a real jabby approach on her backhand, and the judges love it. If you can get up there at 12 o'clock, keep your speed and flow right there, just like that. It's a really fast way to collect a lot of points.
In recent times, we've spoken a lot about Sally Fitzgibbons' backhand approach and talking about it as a strength, and a real strength against her title rivals in the past, the likes of Carissa Moore, Stephanie Gilmore, Tyler Wright. She's been able to fetch the big results on the backhand. Over in Fiji, her backhand's helped her collect a couple of titles, event wins over in Brazil as well. But the new big backhand on tour that everyone's sort of focused on at the moment is Tatiana.
Yeah, she's the thing that, it's not the prettiest either. She is a little sharp around the edges, but the thing that makes it so cool for Tatiana Weston-Webb is it's quick. It is lightning fast, and kind of a lot like Nat Young, it's powerful. the thing that it can make backside surfing kind of almost like you're cheating, as you can just tap your board up there and throw it up there for quick points. It used to be a full-blown go-to move throughout the 90s, but now the thing that makes that move so relevant is power and speed.
Well, Tatiana's going to have a tough time overtaking those surfers above her on the ratings. Unless she can get a win, you'd think, or crack the final here, because Tyler Wright's still alive in the draw. Joanne DeFay, she had a solid finish in the quarterfinals, and she's been very consistent throughout the year. Bianca Batender, she got knocked out early, but with 3 runner-up finishes in CT events this year, she's pretty well placed in the top 5. But still, Tatiana can go a long way to solidifying her position in this top 10 if she can overcome Sally Fitzgibbons, as Carissa Moore makes her way in.
Now is a kind of a sketchy heat for her. Nikki gave her a little something to look over her shoulder for at that 9-point ride. Good fight back, but Carissa so smart.
And the big news, of course, Carissa, well, she's now going to be wearing that Jeep Leaders jersey going into the final event over there at Maui. And Courtney Conolog, she'll go from being the hunted to being the hunter once again.
The yellow jersey. And I think Carissa's been wearing that thing enough over the last couple of years to feel comfy. I don't think she's going to stress out and feel the pressure, especially at Honolulu Bay. I mean, that is her event. She owns that wave.
I'd say there's been a couple of shaky performances from Carissa, though, wearing that yellow jersey in recent times. Last year, she wore it for the majority of the year and then handed it over and never got it back.
Yeah, I think, and she's been honest about that, hasn't she? She's in some interviews. She said, "You know what? I kind of needed that wake-up call. I had some of the girls pass me up, not only with points, but they're surfing, and so everyone needs that gut check."
Well, decent numbers for Tatiana Weston-Webb on her first ride, a 7.33. The judges like it. Solid finish right on that inside shallow sandbar. Sally Fitzgibbons, she managed just a 3.5.
And you better be lightning fast with these waves right now. It's pretty shallow, that low tide going out. You got to be super flexible and quick on that inside section. It's it's not a rippable section. It's really, it's tough. And it's a really tight little transition there. So for Tatiana to match that transition with that backhand whip, that's why she was rewarded with the 7.3. It's a pretty big score.
Well, this event, it used to be staged down at Biarritz, but the event was called off. It used to be earlier in the season. It was called off back in 2013 and moved on the schedule, running at the same time as the Quicksilver Pro, and since then it's been great having the women here competing alongside the men's contest. Always something unfolding down here. 22 minutes to go. Tatiana, she took an insider. It didn't pay off. So her second score is not going to be huge. 21 minutes, 45 seconds to go. And this contest has really been dominated by the Australians, Ross, since its inception. 4 previous years, they've been good for the Aussies. But let's have another look at the 7.33.
Okay, so that opening maneuver, she had some space to work with. So nice, that's the easy part of the wave where you can do pretty much what you want. But watch as this swell hits the inside sandbar. It's going to get really tight and steep. So now she has to match that with agility and speed. Watch this little whip, bing, right there. And that's not easy to ride out of that. It would have been really easy to pearl and kind of bog down. But because she rode out of that cleanly, the judges took notice and she squeezed out a pretty solid score.
And there it is, the judges' numbers. An international panel. The 5 judges entering a score between 0 and 10. The top score is dropped, the lowest score dropped, the 3 in the middle. They're averaged out. 7.33, the reward for the Hawaiian rookie. I mentioned the Australian domination of this contest in years past. Stephanie Gilmore in 2011 had a victory over Carissa Moore. Tyler Wright was beaten by Steph in 2012. Sally Fitzgibbons over Tyler Wright in 2013, and last season Tyler, after a couple of runner-up finishes, broke through and got the victory. She beat Courtney Conolog in the final. last season. But even before that, going way back, there has been a CT event staged in France on and off throughout the years. And of the 13 CT events held for the women at Hossegard, 12 have been won by Aussies. Rochelle Ballard, the Hawaiian, the only other surfer breaking through for a victory. What do you think? What do you think that is?
I don't know. You tell me. You're from Australia. I think maybe, growing up in Australia, there's a lot of beach breaks similar. So I think it's they feel comfortable in these beach break types of setups. There is some pretty big tide swings in Australia as well. And then also, it could just be a coincidence.
Well, just under 20 minutes remaining, and Tatiana Weston-Webb taking an early lead. And Sally Fitzgibbons looking for a 4.34 to get into the lead. As we see a set wave approaching. Doesn't look like either of our competitors are going to take a look at it. It looks like it's going to shut down this one. Let's check in with Pete Mel and see if Carissa Moore has already changed up the colour of her jersey.
Carissa, started off that heat with a great score right out of the gates. Is that part of the plan? I'm sure it is, to apply pressure early.
I think that's always the plan as a competitor, just to go out there and open up with a good score so that your competitor has to play catch up. But it was a bit nerve-wracking at the end. I was scared I was going to have to play catch up. Nikki had a really good wave, and we didn't hear the scores for the longest time. So I was just praying that the clock would wind down as fast as possible.
Well, and again, she had ended up having priority at the end there, and so it does become. What do you do at that point, like to try and protect that lead?
I just try to sit inside of my competitor and take what they don't take if a set comes, and hoping that there's more than one wave in a set, and kind of just praying and hoping that the universe wants it to go your way.
Now, semifinals, you'll be retaining that Jeep Leaders jersey. Any comment on that?
No comment on that yet. I'm just want to finish this event strong.
Well, there you have it, Carissa Moore into the semifinals, boys.
Great performance there, kicking off that quarterfinal clash with a big number. Didn't really shut it out the way she wanted to. Nikki Van Dijk putting in a good fight, but a solid victory in the end. Here goes Tatiana Weston-Webb, looking for a solid backup. She's taken a couple of insiders. This one seems to have a bit more wall to it, and she finds that smooth rhythm on her backhand, and again finishes beautifully on the closeout.
I'm kind of feeling that's going to be better even than her 7.3, connecting really nice with the rhythm of that wave. It's funky. It has two different paces on the outside. When you first take off, it's nice and slopey. It gives you some room. It's a little bit of a slower pace, and then it just jams through that inside as soon as it hits the soundbar, and she just seemed to match that tempo just right. Here's where there's some breathing room, so she's going to arc it out a little more. Little snap there. This one's more on the money here. Got a little more rail in the water. Pinned it right there, nice. So now we're talking. And then another clean finish, and that's that tricky inside section that can really cramp your style, but she seems to match it just right.
Forehand versus backhand. Is it easier in those little tighter pockets on the inside to throw your board vertically on the backhand as opposed to on the forehand?
Without a doubt, for sure. On your forehand, it just cramps you. On your forehand, traditionally you'd love to go into a carve, and it takes some time for a carve. It's that nice half circle arc is traditionally what you're going for on your forehand, unless you have the space to go up vertical and slide the tail out, which is not the case with that end section.
Well, Tatiana Weston-Webb about to put another decent score on the board. She's going to make life very difficult for Sally Fitzgibbons here. And that score drops at a 6.9, so Fitzgibbons, well, she's comboed, and that's pretty rare for Sally, chasing a two-wave total of 14.24. Will the alarm bells be ringing yet for Sally, though, Ross?
No. I think Sally will be not encouraged, but she'll be stoked that it was a 6.9. I kind of felt it was going to go a little higher than that. A couple of judges also did, but it averaged out to be a 6.9. So for Sally, she's not going to get overexcited about it. There's not much pressure, just a couple of sevens to get her right back in it.
Well, there's the requirement for Fitzgibbons. 14.24.
The real test for Sally, though, is she is on her forehand, and that inside section is a pesty section for her forehand, so she's going to have to go to those floaters, which can be a boring move for the judges.
And Sally does have that really nice drawn-out carve, which is her go-to maneuver. Not sure if she'll fit that turn in, so she's going to have to really attack the lip.
she's going to need to wait for the set waves, and you know, you can tell she is. She's dropped anchor. She's being patient because that forehand wrap, that carve, it only gives you space on the outside.
Just over 15 minutes remaining in quarterfinal number 4, semi-final 1. It's a big one. Tyler Wright with an opportunity to defend her Roxy Pro title from last year. Some last-second heroics from her against Joanne DeFay, posting a huge number in the dying seconds of their quarterfinal clash. And Sage Erickson also with a buzzer-beater moment to make the semi against Tyler. Here we go, Sally Fitzgibbons using priority on this wave. Just floating, no major manoeuvres yet. A transition turn to set up this inside run. And she needs a major manoeuvre. She knows that there's not enough points on the inside there, so she kicks out. 14.5 minutes to go, and an opportunity blown there by Sally.
Well, this is where the blood will rush a little more. She'll get a little more heated after that. She waited patiently for a good 5-7 minutes for that wave, and it didn't pan out for her. It ended up being just a total dud. So this is where frustration may set in a little bit, being slightly impatient, just feeling that, you know, that urge to, I want to put a number on the board now, and you know, she doesn't have it yet.
Well, let's see if Sally's fighting spirit can shine through here. You don't need to be a mathematician to work out that she can get the job done with just a couple of 7s, slightly higher than a 7. She's back in it. She so regularly puts scores on the board in the excellent range, Ross, that she'd have to back herself to get the job done with 13.5 minutes to go.
She would. So it's just one of those things, you know, your body's doing one thing and mentally you have to calm yourself down. Don't let yourself get too excited. And for Tatiana, it's the exact opposite. She can start playing the game a little bit here. Play control, wait for that one perfect set wave to come in and try and better her 6.9.
She had such a strong amateur junior career, Tatiana. 11 amateur national titles. And she won 2 events at Pipeline as a junior in 2009 and 2012. And then she just blitzed the QS. She also had the opportunity 3 times last season to compete in CT events. She collected a 9th place finish with each of those efforts. Pretty impressive. You know, you think about wildcards on the men's side. We've seen a couple of breakthrough performances this year. Jay Davies over there in Margaret River getting all the way to the quarterfinals. Dane Reynolds, a 9th in Fiji. Well, that's really it. You know, injury replacement, Aritz Aramburu had a good run over in Tahiti, but to never get knocked out in the second round and collect 3 9ths as a wild card is huge, and it was a good little indication of what she was going to bring this year.
She was so feisty in 2014, and I remember that performance she put on. It was like 6 to 8 foot. It was almost triple overhead restaurants. Tatiana Weston-Webb, she had an amazing heat. A lot of people thought she actually won that heat. She was pulling into the barrel, being really aggressive. She was a little wild, and I think in the end, that's what got her. You know, she didn't get the nod from the judges, but she was charging the hardest.
All the girls get along, but Tatiana is way less concerned about being buddies with the rest of the field, it seems. She was really vocal over there in Fiji about getting out there and getting herself into some big pits and almost calling out some of the other female competitors at that contest. It was a good shake-up.
Well, she's smart. She knows that she's one of the very few women on tour that's going to capitalize when it's scary and kind of big, and that double to triple overhead. She's psyched. And some of the women, to be honest, are a little more timid when the waves are big. So she knows that, and she's a smart competitor. She wants to take advantage.
She's also getting it done here in the smaller conditions at the moment. Just over 11 minutes remaining. Tatiana Weston-Webb out in front. Sally Fitzgibbons, she's comboed. We'll be back after the break with more quarterfinal action. Welcome back. The Roxy Pro quarterfinals are underway. Heat 4 in the lineup. Sally Fitzgibbons up against Tatiana Weston-Webb, and Sally has some work to do because the young Hawaiian, the rookie, put a couple of decent scores on the board early on, a 7.33 and a 6.9. And Sally is trying to get herself back into this one. She's there on the inside, so she did ride a wave during the break. We'll bring that to you in just a moment. 9.5 minutes remaining.
You can see that soundbar poking its head out. That tide has dropped out. And let's see if Sal can get busy on the outside. There's that wrap we've been looking for. So again, taking advantage of that outside section, and here's that pesky little inside section, but she's matching it with speed, Ronnie. So 2 quick, spicy little hits there. There's the body language. And, I don't blame her. That's definitely her best wave.
Well, there was the wave she needed too. Gave her the opportunity to really flex that trademark frontside carve that she has. It's a really clean wrap. But I just like the fact that Sal seems to be putting a little bit more effort into those turns and finishing them off, getting a bit more aggressive.
Yeah, I think she had a couple of blunders there, and she realized just how fast that little end section is, so she picked up the speed and she matched it.
Well, just on 8 minutes and 35 seconds remaining, and we're waiting for scores to drop for Sally Fitzgibbons to see if she can get herself out of combination. And while we do that, let's say hello once again to Rosie Hodge.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ronnie. And I do have WSL Deputy Commissioner with me, Jessie Miley-Dyer. Jessie, you mentioned this morning we were going to run the 4 quarterfinals. You were going to assess the conditions and see if it was worthwhile running straight away or to wait for the tide. What do you have planned for us for the rest of the day?
Yeah, we're actually going to go and hold until 12 after this 4th quarterfinal. There's still really good waves out there, and the girls are getting really great scores. But just as we see this tide starting to bottom out, I think the energy is really going to be turned off. And, I want to be able to finish the women today. I think that we're going to have some good conditions later. So I'm going to go with that little more energy with the tide push. So we're going to wait.
Okay, obviously the tide is a factor, but then again, it is a dropping swell. So you're hoping that kind of it'll reach that optimum a little bit later?
Yeah, for sure. We've only got 3 heats left after this heat in the water, and it's not much time that we need. And I think that when we get with the dropping swell and that really low tide, it's when you can you end up getting those little lulls, and that's really what I want to avoid for the women. And I think that if we wait past that little stage, and as we get the water start to move back on the bank, I'm hoping that we get a little bit more swell push.
All right, Jessie. Well, there you have it. We'll be waiting for conditions to improve. There's still some really fun waves out there, so hopefully we crown a Roxy Pro champ today. Back to you, Ronnie.
Thanks, Rosie. Rosie Hodge, just a star. 9 national titles over there in South Africa she claimed before hitting the championship tour herself, competing at the elite level for a number of years. Helped gift Stephanie Gilmore her first world title by taking out some of the contenders over there at Maui.
She still absolutely annihilates the lineup too. Such a good surfer. I love Rosie's style. She is a smooth cat.
But have a look at this. Sally Fitzgibbons. We expected her to put a big number on the board. She's done that, a 7.13. And she's out of combination, now looking for a 7.11. With 6.5 minutes to go, Ross. Tatiana Weston-Webb, though, she's not going to go away. She's had priority. She's not going to take off on a wave, but isn't going to give her the opportunity to better a 6.9 unless she starts getting concerned that maybe Sally can fetch a 7.11 on that ride.
If I'm Tatiana Weston-Webb, I'm going to go ahead and say, you know what? I know Sally will get that score. In fact, you know what? She might even drop an 8.5 on me. So I think for Tatiana, that's the mindset you need to close this heat out in the last 6 minutes. Try and bank another excellent score. Get one of those in your back pocket to put the pressure back on Sally, because now that momentum's kind of shifted a little bit, you want to discourage her.
Well, while we've got some time here, let's reflect back on the amazing performance that Tatiana Weston-Webb had in the first round. This is the first heat of the Roxy Pro. She locks into this gem.
Doesn't get any more French than that barrel right there. Just how beautiful is that emerald green tube. Look at the style too. That looks super 70s. That front arm guiding her way out of the barrel. But I was just impressed that she found that thing, Ronnie. She kind of traversed back and forth in that lineup. She was hunting a big old barrel when, a lot of the surfers were just kind of sketching around.
They were. Well, here she is, live action. Looking to improve on a 6.9 to increase her lead over Sally Fitzgibbons. And this wave just flattening out for a moment, but it's going to reel off again on the inside. And Tatiana is going to attack. A couple of solid hits, bringing it right through to the inside. Doesn't get the finish that she would have liked on the closeout, but did quite a bit of damage on that ride. She's such a strong competitor. She says that her backhand is one of her weapons, but she also backs her mind game mentally. She's very tough.
Yeah, that's just something you're born with. You know, to be a rookie on tour and as a wild card get those big results. And let's see what she got done on the outside. That was clean, wasn't it? 2 nice snaps there. She kept her flow up, which is no joke. You know, right now with this low tide, these little friffly whitewashes rolling through, it's easy to bog down, but that's not the case with Tatiana. She kept that speed up nice. Just a little hiccup right there. She kind of stomped on the brakes too much and couldn't finish that wave off. That will affect the score a bit.
This was Sally Fitzgibbons looking for an answer. And just a bit of an awkward top turn there. And Sal takes a fall. But Tatiana, she's about to put a good score on the board.
That's not like Sally, is it? She just put a little too much weight on that back foot, kind of did a wheelie there. And so that's a rare hiccup from Sally. She always capitalizes on set waves.
Well, the biggest number of the heat could be about to drop, with Tatiana Weston-Webb getting some big hits on the outside and then taking it through to the inside. Getting that backhand rhythm happening, driving up into the pocket, getting into the most critical part of the wave. Letting go of a couple of big backhand snaps.
It's a cool event. A lot of upsets, little mini upsets. How's Sage getting through, matching up with Tyler in the semis? It could be Tyler's turn there.
Yeah, it's been a tough road for Sage Erickson, overcoming Stephanie Gilmore and now Coco Ho. She'll have to keep on her game and improve her game as she moves through the rounds. She's up against Tyler Wright in that first semi-final, but Tatiana Weston-Webb's improving her chances of moving through to the semis too. Her last ride a 7.73, but here goes Sally Fitzgibbons looking for a reply. Throws her board into reverse on the first maneuver, but that's the only option she's going to have on that wave. That one's going to fade away, unfortunately. She's also going to surrender that priority at the takeoff zone. 2 minutes, 40 seconds to go.
Okay, that was what I was wondering, Ronnie, is where was Tatiana? She's on the outside, so now she can play the control game with priority. Just really clog the lineup, try to make sure Sally doesn't get that one last shot at getting a score. She needs a 7.93, and Sally, I like that little reverse she rolled into. She looks like she's comfortable on her board. She can get that 8-pointer no problem. But she's been out of sync with the best waves. You know, I think Tatiana's been on the best waves in this heat.
And here comes Tatiana now. So what's going through Tatiana's mind, Ross, as she paddles towards Sally Fitzgibbons here?
She just needs to close this thing out. So she's going to hold her nerve, not really worry if Sally would be, offended by her shadowing her. Just sit right next to her and make sure she, gets in a wave. If that one wave comes in, don't let her squeak away and grab that 8-pointer. Close this thing out.
Just a magic run that Tatiana has had this season. A number of strong results, including a semi-final in the very first event. She also made the semis in the last contest down there at Portugal. And that's really what's helped her climb all the way to 8th position on the Championship Tour rating. She also hasn't been eliminated in the second round this year.
And this result will solidify her in the top 10, maybe even a chance to crack that top 5 after Maui.
There's a lot of surfers above her on the ratings that have had round 2 exits throughout the season. It's not a problem for those competitors because they do drop their worst 2 results at the end of the year. But Tatiana, you've got to give credit to her consistency. She's going to use priority on this wave.
Sold.
She's a little deep, 45 seconds to go. And if there's a set out the back, this will be Sally Fitzgibbons' opportunity.
That was a good sail job from Sally.
Veteran move, but Sally's not seeing the numbers in this ride. So 35 seconds to go. And not sure Sally is going to get another opportunity here. She needs a 7.93.
Tatiana knows it. Little minor mistake there. She looked at her wrist. Any time left on that clock.
20 seconds to go. Sally Fitzgibbons, she's looking for a semi-final spot. She might just have time. There's a wave out the back.
There is one wave. Here it is.
The onside announcer is counting this one down. Not sure if Sal's going to get to her feet in time.
Oh, brutal.
Well, the hooter sounds, and Sal's just a little late, and Tatiana is going to be moving through to the semis. And unfortunate for Sally, but you've got to give credit to Tatiana. Another strong performance.
Really strong, impressive too. You know, the funny thing is we think about Tatiana and how strong she is in big hollow surf. She can get it done in the small stuff too. And she'll be stoked, you know, guaranteed a third place or better in this event here. As the surf dropped out, she's already stole the show in the big stuff.
Cool. Tatiana Weston-Webb, she's going to be marching through to the semi-finals with a win over Sally Fitzgibbons. She'll now have to set her sights on the new Jeep ratings leader, Carissa Moore, who is waiting as Tatiana makes her way in. A very proud moment for her mum, who's been cheering her on through all the rounds, and she's had plenty of moments to celebrate, because Tatiana Ross, she keeps locking in big scores and taking down big names.
Yeah. You can tell she's having so much fun too. Tatiana's mom, you know, she's just having a blast watching her daughter win these heats. It's so impressive. She's got to be so proud.
She looks pretty composed though, doesn't she? Very focused. Not going to settle for a semi-final, that's for sure.
No, she goes into every single heat with the intention to annihilate.
And she'd definitely be thinking, even though I've had a great year, I haven't cracked that last heat just yet. This might be my opportunity. Thanks. And the fans applauding Tatiana's effort in quarterfinal number 4, getting a solid victory over Sally Fitzgibbons. Well, let's check in with Chelsea Cannell and Strider Wozalewski and get caught up on all the highlights from the quarterfinals here at the Roxy Pro.
Thanks so much, Ronnie. Yeah, what a way to start the day, Strider, at the Roxy Pro here for the quarterfinals. Each one of these heats, all 4 of them coming down to those final minutes. Really a lot of fun to watch. Is there anything in particular that you loved seeing out of the ladies today?
Oh, I think you nailed it. They were all buzzer beaters. They were just right at the end there. Everything was happening all the way to the end, which makes you just realize how good the competitors are, you know, how much talent they all have, and that anybody's game at the end of it, you know, it could go either way, which is what we love to see out there. We love to see, even with the women. There was a point in the women's surfing where you were like, okay, let's see what's going on here. But now everybody all along the whole roster just rips. I mean, Joanne DeFay this morning, she looked like she had this thing in the bag all the way to the end.
Yeah, this one was really hard because she did have it in the bag all the way to the end, but Tyler knew she needed a big score. She said in her post-heat interview that she knew this was going to come down to the final second. She was ready for it. It did, and she ended up finding an excellent range score to end up winning this heat, Strider.
Well, you know, it was a big mistake by Joanne DeFay. You know, she took this little wave. Great sell job, though, by her opponent. Her opponent really did look like she was going to go, and then she left her out the back, and Tyler Wright had to have nerves. I mean, look at that whip right there in Joanne's face. Are you kidding me? Buckets, nice rail work, using the fins, everything coming into play here. Really strong surfing from Tyler Wright. She came in, she was so pumped up. I talked to Matt Biolas, the shaper, and he was just saying how he's never even seen her so pumped up when she came in, just psyching, and there's the emotion from Joanne DeFay.
So
of course,
hard for Joanne, and she said,
obviously,
she said, I had no one to blame but myself. Going into this next heat, we had Sage Erickson and Coco Ho. This one also coming down to the very final seconds.
Yeah, right down to the wire. Coco looking spicy, blowing up off the top, slamming away. I mean, really love the form that she's found. I love the fact that she's been working hard with her crew and just making it happen, and a great result for her. But Sage Erickson coming around the corner, blasting away, having fun, focusing on being on the best waves, and I think that has just given her the nod almost, well, obviously in every heat so far.
You can just tell with Sage too that she's really found that confidence. When she had it on the QS, she needed to find it here on the tour. This is an important win for her, and you know she's going to celebrate. Moving on into heat 3, we had Carissa Moore and Nikki Van Dijk. Again, final seconds.
Yeah, you know what? It came down to the end. There was an exchange going down. Carissa knew that Nikki could get the score because she's so good. But really, she is just on fire. She's having so much fun out there, and she's flowing through her turns. She looks great. She's been in the water a lot, and she's just keeping that rhythm. I think she's, not worrying about everybody else's surfing. She's worried about what she's got to do, staying in her own bubble, out of her own words right there. And I like it. I think that's what you have to do. Everybody's going to have an opinion of who and what you have to do and where you have to go through life. And if you just do what you want to do from the heart and get it done, you can't be upset with yourself.
Moving on into Heat 4, we had Tatiana Weston-Webb and Sally Fitzgibbons. This one was a bit of an upset.
I'd say it was an upset, but if you really look at it, Tatiana on the backside is surfing so good at places like lowers. You've seen her just with that whip and throwing it up in there. Her surfing today, not dynamic, not crazy, but definitely, the conditions were tempting. The rail. They were kind of biting into your style a little bit, which was hard to negotiate. Sally looking good, but with the same, not anything huge, nothing dynamic. So really, not crazy surfing, but just straight up good, solid, fundamental surfing. That backside whip coming into play for Tatiana, and she kept a flow. She wasn't, going in between turns and wiggling at the bottom. It was just up and down. Good flow, and that's what the judges like to see from her.
And Sally had to know going in, that this was going to be a tough matchup because Tatiana just came off of semis in Portugal. So it's obviously something that's easy for her to do, and she's been looking so solid throughout this entire competition. We're going to take a look at our semifinals here. You see Tyler Wright and Sage Erickson in heat number 1. That one is going to be interesting, don't you think?
I love it. Well, the reality here is you look at the two brackets, Tatiana Weston-Webb and Sage Erickson at the bottom of each one. Those are names we haven't seen here, and it's great to see them move on into the semifinals and feel that love and that fire and just see that role that they've been going off on. So, Carissa Moore, Tyler Wright, you know that they're going to bring the veterans style surfing and they're going to be able to give you what you want to see. But those two names at the bottom, Sage and Tatiana, I can't wait to see them get after it.
Yeah, that is going to be interesting. We also have, of course, the Heat 2, which is going to be incredible. But you guys are going to want to watch the highlights from today to get caught up, because we will be coming up at 12 midday for the semifinals. You're going to want to join us for that. Enjoy these highlights. We'll see you soon.
Joanne DeFay on her first wave of the morning. Frontside hook, nice and clean. Into a little jam under the lip. Great flow.
Now Tyler, one more roll of the dice, Joe.
Needing that big score of a 7-1-8. Hooks it right out front. 2 big turns. Highline wrap, now looking to finish strong.